There we go. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a little hiatus from our weekly Q&A. I had some travel days on some Mondays. You know, we had our event in LA, and both of those days turned into flying days. So it's been a few weeks since we did one of these. Oh, and I just realized my laptop is not plugged in, so we should probably fix that. Hold on one sec. There we go. All right, we're jacked into the matrix. Quick little announcement just before we get rocking and rolling. I'm going to be next 2 weeks or so going to be doing a training on walking you guys through ways to grow this agency without cold outreach, because I feel like everybody says you have to be messaging strangers and you do not. And I think it's kind of a grind. And a lot of people do it and just find out it's hard and it's miserable. And I want you guys to have ways in which to grow an agency that are not ways in which, you know, I'm a bigger believer in attract, don't chase. So I want to show you guys how to do that. So I got to put together a few things for it. I'll do an announcement, but it's coming, just so you guys know, for those of you guys who are interested in it, getting clients without cold outreach. Also, I'm going to be releasing some Facebook ad templates, which is one of the ways. I'm going to show you guys both free and paid ways to get the old clients. So that's all I got for you guys on the announcement front. Let's get into the good shit here. It's been a while. It's been a while since I could hold my head up high. There we go. In ZFG status. So let me do my little rant since it's been 3 weeks. I almost forget my own rant. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. With the man they call the man, His Holiness, the Lord of the Dadguns, 170 pounds of pure steel at Sex Uphill. Also, for those of you guys who don't know me, wrote those 2 books, built a few agencies myself, been doing this 20 years. I do not have all the answers, but I do have a few good ones along the way, just so you guys know. Vincent first says, what are some ways to develop conversations and build relationships with clients inside your niche if you don't have the capital to run ads? Appreciate the feedback. I've had the pleasure to work with Chiros my entire life, being one myself since 1998. Old school, banging out DMs until you're thrown into Facebook jail is dead. LMAO. That's how I built my first agency from 2016 to 2020. Probably touched over 7,000 Chiros that way. It worked back then. Yeah, and you guys are experiencing something, by the way, that happens in marketing. It's like continually a cat and mouse game where a new strategy comes out and then 1,000 people start doing it and it stops working. So my favorite example of that, Ty Lopez released a course for how to get like roofers and home services niche contractors as social media marketing clients. He sold 60,000 copies of a course, and as part of the course, they gave away a cold outreach script. Problem is they started selling shit tons of that course, and then, you know, everybody's doing it. What's up, Johnny? So when everybody's doing the same shit, like, you kind of got to zig when everyone else zags. And this is why, by the way, I'm a big believer, because I hear this from people all the time where they say, I feel like I'm constantly learning new shit. One day it's reels that are hot, and one day it's something else. This is why I say, like, learn the principles of the psychology of the person, because those don't change. That is the bedrock. Like, for example, if you know how to get somebody's attention, it don't matter whether you go on TikTok, it don't matter whether you go on Facebook, it don't matter whether there's 75 algorithm updates. You can always break through because you know how to get people's attention in the first place. Ergo, that's why I'm saying a big believer in principles. But let's come back to your question. So like I said, I'm going to do a free training on this. There are several different ways to get clients that don't involve banging out the DMs, chasing motherfuckers, what I call digital door knocking. Like, it's basically door-to-door sales, but done digitally. So one of my favorite, most simple ways to do it is you friend people on social media, and then you put stuff in front of them via posts. So this can be done on Facebook or LinkedIn. It depends on where your target audience is, but they will not remember accepting your friend request. They will just discover your post And when they initiated a conversation, changes it. Second favorite way is you publish content. And if I was going to do one piece of content starting out, it would be webinars. Like, train your people, basically teach them how to do the shit you do for free, and include lots of examples to make it real. And you'll be amazed. Most of them won't want to do what you described. They will want to work with you instead and just have you do it for them. Another way to do it is what I call shoe stores, which is you find people in your space who have published audiences. You contribute value to them, ultimately pulling people into your machine. I could probably go on this topic for hours. Referral partners are another one. It's the same basic thing. I'll tell you a very useful skill is to be able to identify the people who have audiences or where those audiences hang out, and then understanding how to show up with a contributing of value. And for most of you guys, the easiest way to give value is give away the ideas for free. So if I'm doing this for a plumber and I do SEO, I can show them like how to crush all your competitors in Google. And I can teach them that for free, and they ain't going to want to do it, right? But I've given them value in teaching them how to do it, and they see me as an authority or an expert on it. Johnny says, I'm learning a lot from your YouTube live. Thank you so much. You're so amazing, Frankie. Hey, I appreciate you guys too. Just so you guys know, this is like therapy for me. So like first 10 years of doing this, I only had one other guy I could talk to about this. And then everybody else in my life would ask me dumb questions. Even my girlfriend, who was like really close to me, she would ask me like, she just questions where she clearly didn't understand the business. And so, to be able to talk about this stuff every day, I consider this like a huge blessing. Let me just get to, so anyways, Vincent, I obviously gave you kind of a short answer, but I'm going to go deeper on that. Gal says, hey guys, quick one. So I've just graduated university. I'm starting a brand new agency in the plumbing and HVAC space. I've got one client at the moment, a plumber in London, who I'm doing a free trial with. Funny enough, I only came across Frankie and Beyond Agency Profits after I'd signed him. So going forward, I want to position myself properly around helping businesses pick up the $100 bills. The FYI, the audiobook is amazing. The thing I'm stuck on is positioning. I live in the UK, so part of me thinks I should niche down and only work with UK businesses. But the other part doesn't want to close the door on plumbing and HVAC firms worldwide, especially the US where the market is way bigger. Do I need to niche down that far, or is plumbing and HVAC already niche enough? So the answer kind of is like, it depends what you want. But let me give you 4 reasons why people like me tell you to pick a niche. Because if you understand the why, you'll understand what you like, more of like the reasoning behind what we're trying to get you to accomplish. And then you can pick a model that works for your goals. So just so you know, both of those are viable. You can definitely niche down and be the UK guy. You can definitely niche down and be the plumbers and HVAC guy. Okay, reason number 1 to pick a niche is specialists make more money than generalists, like usually on average 4 times. So for me, when I sold websites and I was a generalist, $500 to $1,000, and I'd get pushback. When I sold websites as a plastic surgery specialist, $5,000 to $10,000. Same website. I didn't get any better at WordPress. Specialists make more money than generalists. Welcome to existence. Reason number 2, your messaging will say something. When I was a generalist, my messaging was like, we make websites, we do some SEO. And it was like, so did everyone else. When I was in plastic surgery, I could talk about plastic surgery things that were relevant to them. We can get you rhinoplasty procedures. We can get you mommy makeovers. We can get you nose jobs. We can get you facelifts. Like we talk about things that matter to them. So your messaging will get better just by picking a niche. Reason number 3, okay? And this is probably the biggest one, is that it creates economy of scale. So most people don't realize this, but I have these unpleasant conversations like probably once a week or a couple times a week with different people where they built an agency to 10 to 30K a month and they want to get to 100 and they don't realize it, but their structure simply won't allow them. And so they have to tear down before they can build back up. And the reason is they're doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And it's kind of like a restaurant that one day the restaurant caters, the next day they make pizza, the next day they make Chinese food, the next day they only make burgers. Every day they're going to have to source new ingredients and figure out new processes, right? As or if they only make burgers, the operations of the restaurant get way simpler. So that's actually the biggest reason, is your operations will get simpler when you're just doing the same shit over and over. You want it to be a boring factory. Reason number 3. Reason number 4. Sorry, I'm blanking. So you know where to go get them, right? I always say, like, the clearer you are about who you're talking to. So sometimes people ask me, like, where do I find people who want to spend money on Google ads? Like, fuck if I know. They don't like walk around with a big sign on them. But if you said, I want to meet a golfer, I'm going to be like, let's take our ass to the golf course, because that's where all the golfers are, right? So like, if I want to meet plumbers, in your case, I would go to the Plumbers Association and to the plumbing podcast and go to the community full of plumbers, because that's where all the fucking plumbers are, right? And so the more you're clear about that, so like when you understand those 4 details, the question I have for you is, how big do you want to build this thing? If your goal is speed, so if you're just trying to get to like 10, 20K a month and you want to do it as fast as humanly possible, I would go the UK route, because it's easier to close people locally when you are one of them. Okay. But it will not really scale to like 50 or 100K a month easily. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it will not scale easily. But if you're not trying to get to 100K a month, then be the local guy. If the goal is to build like a 7-figure kind of deal and you want to be a millionaire from this, then you're probably going to need to niche down to something like plumber, where it's a vertical. Having said that, both those paths are viable. So like, just pick one. It's all good. It's all good, dude. Let me catch up on the chat real quick here. Paul says, Frankie, to legally do DBR in America, the customer, the client needs to have checked off a box that says, I consent to marketing SMS. Well, you can't technically send to customers that haven't consented to marketing. Business that have violated have gotten sued, millions, even into bankruptcy. What should I do? I don't know. I've heard stories of people getting sued, but I told you can do database reactivation with emails. It's not like a big deal. It's most important that you nail the messaging, and the messaging is like I said, which is, thank you, we appreciate you, we want you back. By the way, if you do that, like, businesses tend not to get annoyed. Alan, thank you for doing this. You got it, brother. Frankie, glad to have you back. You got it, Sebastian. Got the top remodeling coach guy on my podcast. Thanks, by the way. Yeah, and I would just add, when you get the top remodeling guy on your podcast, think about that as a step 1 in a relationship. So like if this was dating and you asked a girl to go for coffee with you, that's not the end of the journey. Now it's like, hey, let's go on another day. Let's do this other thing. So to me, one of the simplest things you can do to escalate those relationships is just follow those people and comment on their shit. And then when a time comes, say like, hey, dude, I got other ideas of cool stuff we could do together. Can I run it by you? And nobody usually ever objects to that. But a lot of times people do the step 1 and then they stop, which is the dating equivalent of like, I took her out for coffee. And then what? Nothing. So we want something to follow that, but that's a huge, awesome first step. And usually the first step is the hardest one. Just, it's easier to keep it going than it is to get it started. So you've done the hardest part. But none of the other shoe stores reply back to me. 2 reasons for that generally. Reason number 1 is they're super busy. So when I actually worked hand in hand, I was like the number 2 with a guy who owned the industry association and legal. And I'd send him like 15 messages about some shit. And then we would meet like once a week and Friday in person. And I'd be like, Ken, like, what's up? Like, you haven't responded to any of my messages. And he'd be like, really? I haven't seen any messages from you. I'm like, I sent you 15. You didn't see any of them? No. And he'd show me his phone and there'd be like a million messages on it. Like, and most of them are from his audience in his case. They're not from like people like me, but they're just busy. So that's reason number 1. So it takes more effort to break through with somebody who's busy than not busy. Thing number 2 is you're probably talking about the wrong thing. Usually the thing they care about most is the thing they're trying to do. So, their magazine, their podcast, their event, their coaching program, their mastermind. The more you assist them with those things, the more you'll break through the noise faster. How'd the workshop go? Wish I could have gone. Timing just didn't work. Awesome. And I will just say, actually, on that, we created a tool that I'm super proud of. So a lot of people don't realize this, but when it comes to selling through video, a big component of this is conveying your offer in a way where it's a complex idea that can be expressed visually instead of with words. So what I mean by that is most people like ask me, what do you say in a video? But it's actually what you visually show them that makes them understand what you're doing. So we had James in our Fast Starters program. I showed him, I taught people how to do that, and he used AI to create his own version. So he had a plumber he was pursuing, and he had a picture of a phone's Google search. And the first picture was a real search of like, this is what the rankings look like now. I searched for plumbers, in his case, a city called Hamilton. I don't know where it is. And then he showed him a side by side, and he'd used an AI mock-up to show him what it would look like if they were number one, their company, their brand, their logos. And they're like, this is what I want to do for you. Then he made a second image. And in the second image, he had a phone, and it had 3 things on it. And so where he's at in Europe, most of instead of texting or calling, people will typically WhatsApp. So there was a WhatsApp notification from somebody saying, do you do this kind of plumbing job? We could use some help. And then there was another plumbing notification from somebody who had scheduled a job. And then there was another one on the phone. Somebody said, we just left you a 5-star review. And he showed it to the client. And the client said something that I think is one of the most important phrases that a client can ever say to you. They said, that's exactly what we need. 5 words. And I was like, ooh, when I hear stuff like that. And so what I did is it's really only the last 2 months or so where ChatGPT in particular, the image model is good enough. So we created a tool where I can like crank out image demonstrations so that we can translate very complex like services into a simple picture where people go, oh, I get it. I get what you're going to do for me. I want that. And have that happen in like seconds. I call them dramatic demonstrations. And we built that for our folks at our event. And then we had everybody cranking out demonstrations, and it was just awesome. And also we had, when people were asking questions, we had a penis laser. Beep. So anyways, I had, like the lasers, the pen lasers or whatever they are. I had one, but it shines a cock. So we had a cock laser. I didn't actually come up with that. That was Gary's idea. He's like, this is so you. What do you think the idea of incenting them to join a text list so I can text them instead of email, because people check their text more than emails? And in America, you need prior express written consent for marketing text. Before you get like too hung up in it, like always, when the point of doing a database reactivation is twofold. One is you want to see if they're like, the biggest reason database reactivation fails besides the offer, that's like reason number 2. The reason number 1 is their people hate them. Like imagine a restaurant that sucks asks you to join their email list, and then they text you back and say, come back. If the food sucks, you're just not going to come back no matter what they say in a text message. So to me, like when you get a database reactivation, what you're trying to find out is whether their people like them fast enough, whether this client is even worth it for you, and whether it's going to be worth it for them. So I wouldn't do that as a step 1. I don't like typically create a bunch of complexity, because I'm trying to find out, is this even a good client to begin with? And it's easier to find out, like the best way to find out if somebody's good for dating is to go on a couple of dates, right? So same deal is like you want to do something together and find out. And like, to me, like, 3-4 emails. And then if those work, then yeah, like switch it to text and do more of it. But I wouldn't like introduce complexity in day 1. I have an agency with 52 clients, mostly local businesses. I have a YouTube channel, 84K views, 300.6 subscribers. Problem is I have different kinds of local businesses, from HVAC, plumbers, not scaling as fast as I want, and sitting in appointments all week with mostly unqualified leads suck. Then I read beyond the agency box. Yeah, I mean, you're describing the problems of being a generalist. And just so you know, my first agency, it was similar. I mostly, like 75% worked with plastic surgeons. But if the 25%, if anybody said, can you do blank? And they had a credit card and I reasonably thought we could, I said yes. It created a lot of problems on the fulfillment and the delivery side, because you're constantly having to find somebody new. So for me, like we would edit some video. So I'd have to find a video editor, and we did some SEO. We did lots of SEO. That was the thing I was best at. We did some web design. So I'd have to find good designers and graphics people. And we did some Google ads. So I'd have to find Google ads people. And like all of that just created unnecessary complexity in my machine. I'm not saying you can't scale a generalist agency, because you obviously have done it, and you got, I think you said 52 clients. I'm missing where is, 52 clients. But it's just, you make it way harder. Like I found when I restarted my second agency, it was actually easier when you only do one thing over and over. It was easier to have 50 clients than 5. 50 was easier than 5. And here's the crazy thing that blew my mind. it's actually better for the clients. I used to think like, oh, I'm solving all these custom problems. There's my value to people. But the more it was just like, hey, I got this thing works. I can plug it, play it in your business. Do you want it? That was more valuable than like hire me and I'll be your web designer and we'll go back and forth for a long time. And eventually you get something that you're happy with. So I don't know. It's kind of like, it's a messy thing when you built a really big generalist agency. Having said that, what I typically do is I will niche down and start building my niche agency. And then you don't like fire your client roster. You just slowly like fade one out and build into the other. That's the easiest way to do it. But it's not easy, just so you know what you're doing. And by the way, I've experienced that more than a few times myself, where you realize you build this really big structure and then you realize, oh shit, the structure is actually the problem. Alan says, I created a self-selling AI voice receptionist that asks questions and then does role play as the business receptionist, sells the service and upsells the AI chatbot and reputation management. It adapts to the niche of the caller for the role play. Should I niche down? I'm just getting started. It runs very smoothly. My offer is just those 3 tools, easier to scale. Thoughts? I would niche down. There's very few scenarios where I wouldn't niche down if I was starting out, just so you know. And like I said, like your messaging will be stronger. You'll be able to charge more money for it. It'll scale easier, and you'll have a better idea of where to go get them. So the question I might ask, I might give it to AI, but I would give it to AI and say, like, this is what I do. Who would get the most value from this thing? And I might ask them for like a couple of niches that are not beat to death by marketers, because I call those the most hit on girl at the bar. There's like 10 niches that like agency owners just gravitate to over and over. And they're good niches, don't get me wrong, but they tend to be like just, pitched a lot. And there's plenty of other niches that could benefit that aren't pitched to death. So like HVAC and plumbing, roofing, med spas, plastic surgeons, lawyers, dentists. I'm probably forgetting a few off the top of my head, but those are some of the most hit on girls at the bar kind of thing. And they tend to be more jaded and harder to break through with, although there's good money in them. I'll come back to the chat in 1 second. I got a couple in our text doc here. Cameron says, is there any world where you can have a company that has no churn for a year or less than 3% for 12 months? Yes, it's very difficult to do. Everything I know about churn, I learned, or how to prevent it really, is from Joey Coleman's Never Lose a Customer Again. I highly suggest read that book. It's very actionable too. It's one of the most actionable books. We've had Joey Coleman on the channel. It's just a great fucking book. But having said that, the actual biggest way to prevent churn is to sell things where you're the only one who does them, and your churn will simply go down from that. Like, I mean, how many of you guys stick with the electric company and don't churn? Because your choices are electric company or no electricity, right? Well, I kind of like having electricity, right? So ideally, like the best way to combat churn, like the number one best way, is to figure out how to make your thing so unique that they can't get it anywhere else. Ben says, I know my niche. I know their $100 bill. How do I find out if I can bring them enough of those jobs economically before putting together an offer website service? Was thinking about just getting in touch with some white label Pete's and asking if they've got any specifics. Any other pointers, or have I just answered my own question? Asking a couple of groups, so forgive me if you've seen this twice. Usually, just so you know, Ben, most times, I would say like 98 times out of 100, the economics on what I call a $100 bill, for those of you guys who are not familiar with that term, $100 bills when you help your client sell their most expensive thing. So like you think about roofing, roofers have a wide spectrum of services. They drive to someone's house, they patch up a shingle, and they fix a leak. $99. They also do commercial flat roofs for a giant factory. They might charge $400,000 for that. Like, those are technically roofing services, but which ones do you think they would rather sell more of? The $99 leak or the $400,000 flat roof? So if you're selling the $100 bill, you're like I help you get the $400,000 commercial flat roofing projects, right? Like that's kind of the shtick we're going to go with. So how do you find out if there's enough of them? So the economics will usually work. That's what I mentioned. Usually, like, you can just tell, like, Google search tool, run some Facebook ads. But here's something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And they think you can't tell this to clients, but here's the truth. There's no fucking guarantees in advertising. There aren't. So if you're not sure, the best way is to figure it out on a client's dime and just be honest about that. Say, hey, listen, I think we could get commercial flat roofing projects by running Google ads of this type and doing it this way. But the truth is, no, until we try it. Would you be down to run a little test and we'll spend $1,000 or $2,000? And if it doesn't work, do more of it, but I'm pretty sure it will. Also, how do you get those things? Because a few people have asked me that. It's just called positioning, right? So if I wanted to get commercial flat roofing, I'd bid on keywords related to commercial roofing. I'd have an ad that says, we do commercial roofing. I'd send them to a landing page or a website that just shows pictures of commercial roofs. It wouldn't make sense for somebody to call me for anything else, right? Like positioning in its simplest form is actually really simple. Like if I say to you, if I got a brand new restaurant and I say, hey, we make the best Chicago dog in town, what are you going to come to my restaurant for? Right? If I run a restaurant and say, hey, we make Indian food and we have the best buttery naan bread you've ever tried, what are you going to come to me for? Now, what happens is most businesses don't do any positioning. They just say, business name, we do blank, blank, and blank for all your blank needs. Call now. Established 1997, if it's even that good, right? They don't do any positioning. So a lot of positioning is you take one desirable thing and you make the entire advertising about that one desirable thing. You don't say, hey, we're a restaurant, we make lots of food. You say, Chicago dogs, come get one. So that's a big part of it, just so you know. But the truth is you won't know until you run campaigns, and there's no way to do it. But if you're honest with clients about that, you'd be surprised how many people are like, yeah, I'm down to try some shit. If we can get big jobs, I'm down to try it. Let me just catch up on chat a little bit here. Michael says, anyways, read the book, developed a relationship with the shoe store, and now have 7 physical therapist clinics. There you go. Found a niche within the physical therapy. So here's the first question. Do I make a whole new YouTube channel, website, persona for the new physical therapy niche? Because I'm concerned when my new physical therapist potential clients come to my website, YouTube channel, they will not feel this is for them. My current website has all sorts of videos like getting on Google Maps for HVAC, plumbers, doctors, and lawyers, not physical therapy. And I'm concerned that if I make my current website all about physical therapy, then I'm going to lose my bread and butter, what to do. Yeah, I mean, I would exactly what you described. It's okay to have 2 channels, 2 websites. And as far as the physical therapist types, they're not like, chances are they're just going to land on there and that's all they're going to know about you. And like, just so you guys know, like I have a whole separate channel that it's newer, but it's for what I call digital deal making, which is like how to make money. It's kind of like being an affiliate, but it's like you use other people's stuff and you monetize it, other people's audiences and products, and you put them together and you create what I call, which is in book number 2, by the way, passive automated recurring income, which is money that goes like this. Oh, and it's my favorite flavor of it, where it just at set intervals, it comes in. So anyways, about that, like I got 2 channels, right? So I think you can have 2 channels. By the way, I think this is normal, just so you know, Michael, like I have some clients who have 100, 200 domains. Like I think of some of my lawyer clients. So they have 8 locations. So they have like, I can think of a guy, for example, he's in Tampa, Florida. He's in Orlando. He's in Tallahassee. He's in Miami. He's in Fort Lauderdale, right? So they have a website for each of those locations. And part of the reason is they want you to believe they're local to them, not that they do this all over the state. Then they have like 4 different practice areas. They got like divorce, personal injury, they do a little criminal, and I think they do some real estate stuff. I could be mistaken on that, but each of those have some practice. Each of those has its own mini site, so that if you're looking for a divorce in Orlando and you land on them, as far as you're concerned, that's all they do is divorce in Orlando, and that's how they niche and generalize at the same time. So you can do the same kind of thing. How can I create content around services I plan to white label? Example, SEO. Sebastian, I'll give you my favorite way of creating. So just so you know, there are, in my mind, 2 very distinct categories of content. There is content for the purpose of entertainment, and its success is measured in views and likes and comments and virality. And I don't do that kind of content. Like last I checked, when I go to the bank and I'm like, I want to pay my bills or whatever, they don't go, well, just pay us in likes and comments and shares. And by the way, I've met many, many people with millions of those that are fucking broke. So I would personally not pursue that. So there's a whole second category of content that I call content that sells. And my favorite framework of content that sells is a 4-part framework. I've probably used it on many of you guys, but I've used it in lots of industries. It's called, I go old plan. So I describe what they're doing now. And then I say, here's why it sucks. And then I go new plan. I describe the way I like to do it. And I go, here's why that's better. And you'd be amazed at how that makes people want to buy your stuff. So in the case of water damage restoration, where we sold SEO, an example of old plan versus new plan. So the old plan is how they generate business now. And what they were doing is they were mostly relying on referrals from plumbers. And the problem with that is that those plumbers are like prostitutes. So they get a kickback. So like if I pay you $500 every time you refer me, that's cool. But as soon as somebody comes along and says, I'll give you 600, you ain't so loyal to me anymore. You're like, well, he's giving me $100 more every time. So I'm going to refer him work. And so they're constantly chasing partners and then losing them and chasing them and losing them because the hooker goes to the next highest paying guy. New plan. Why don't you just get found in Google and like you can generate your own jobs and you don't have to rely on plumbers. You can still get plumbers, but you'll have like control over the flow in your own business. So how would I do that? And by the way, it doesn't matter whether this is a video, doesn't matter whether this is written, doesn't matter whether this is a podcast or a webinar. This content framework works because it works on people. So I'd simply say, hey, in fact, I actually did a thing in person, and that's how I started. I said, hey, how many of you guys right now are getting most of your business from plumbers? And all the hands went up. And I said, does it not feel like they're prostitutes who are for sale to the highest bidder? And they all kind of laughed. And it's like, don't you hate it when that plumber suddenly starts referring someone else and you lose that business? What if you could just easily, quickly generate business from Google and get jobs directly without needing the plumber? Instead of people calling the plumber, they call you, and then you can get all the business you want. And all you got to do is just do these couple of things in Google to outrank your competitors. Old plan versus new plan. That's how I sell anything. And by the way, that content, just so we're clear, will typically not get the most likes. It will not get the most shares. It will not get the most views. But you know what it will get? Here's my visa. Can you help me with that thing? So that's my favorite way of doing it. I just gave you, by the way, one of the most powerful frameworks. Frankie, did you know about the prior express written consent law in America? It's according to TCPA, where customers need to have written consent for marketing text. Should I go for the Canadian market instead, where the CAS laws for marketing text is more relaxed? No, I think you should go get a client. And I think, Paul, just so you know, you're a smart guy. I see this a lot with smart guys. So I have some people in real estate, okay? Real estate beginners often love to worry about step 272 before they're done step 1. So I've seen this before where like somebody has done 0 deals and they're worried about which title company they're going to use. And if you don't have any deals, you don't need to worry about your title company. You have to go talk to sellers and you have to make offers, and you have to do that until somebody says, here's my thing. So there's a tendency to want to map out all the steps and make it all legal and compliant and perfect and have everything figured out. You have to have a loose idea of what you're going to do. But at the end of the day, you know, Mike Tyson back in the day said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's like you can plan everything out perfectly, your title company and everything you're going to do to get a client. And then the client may say, oh, but I only really want to send voicemails to people. And then, okay, well, now we got to send voicemails to people because that's what the client wants, right? So to me, like, for example, like I'm working right now with a client who's like, dude, I think we could be the first ones to crush it on TikTok. It was not in my plan to wake up and say we should do TikTok, but I'm like, my all-time favorite client, his name's Mo. I'm like, Mo, I actually think you're kind of right. We should do some TikTok. Normally I would resist those kind of things, but I'm like, dude, let's make your shit work on TikTok. That was not in my plan. So the reason I say that is don't worry about step 272. Go get the client. Until you get the client, There's not a lot of other things that need to be worried about. Like, that's why I'll tell you, when I did the 90-day challenge, why I was able to do it in an hour a day, because after 20 years, I know what moves the needle. And that's just making offers to clients, like getting in front of buyers and making offers. That's it. Getting in front of buyers and making offers. So I obsess about that because that's the needle moving thing. If you obsess about the wrong shit, like compliance and stuff like that, you'll be perfectly compliant, but with zero clients. Like, to me, like, that's not where you want to be. I'm thinking about home services, says Alan. Yeah, I would go still deeper than home services. Like I would rather specialize in one job type, like I'm the guy who gets you fence jobs, whatever. Frankie, I'm about to record my VSL. Should I just talk about the offer plus how I'll do it? For ads, I'll address a few objections. So ads, objection, landing page, VSL. Talk about how I'll do it. I'm going to suggest you watch a training where I go look over my shoulder as I build one of these, because a lot of selling this way is done with video. Is done by creating visuals that make clients understand what you're selling. And if you do that, it's less about, like, people ask me, do I send it from here to a landing page or do I text it? And the truth is, we do all of it. Like, it works is if you can show somebody something they want visually and they understand it in seconds, there's almost no media you can't do that in. So it's less about like add to landing page and do I text them this or whatever, and more about just getting the dance steps right because what you're really doing in a video close, just, is you're answering the questions they were really going to ask you in a sales call, like the real shit they wanted to know. Like, that's a Loom video is just the 80-20 of a sales call compressed in time and expressed visually so they understand it faster. So like, just rewatch that, because like what you're really doing is you're taking what's in the client's head, what they really want to know about your service, and then answering. And if you can do that, it matters less whether you text it, call, email it, run ad, landing page. People always ask me about the tech side of it. And it's like, however the fuck you want to do it. Michael says, you have the shoe store ChatGPT bot, works like a champ. I saw another one you did where you research how to find out their pain points. What's the link to that? Let me put that. I post that just so you guys know, every single one. And part of the reason is most people don't know the pain points of their target market. There you go. There's my market research bot. Sebastian, still at the point where I build credibility with shoe stores. What are ways to put my offer in front of remodelers? Finding it difficult to connect with them in communities. I'm going to lay this out in a training over the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna lay out, like, for you guys, like at least a dozen ways you can get clients step by step that don't involve like cold DMing people. I love shoe stores. It's my favorite way of doing it, but it is complex. Because it's a real relationship and it's sort of dynamic, and it's like a busy, successful person who has less time than most people. So, it's just challenging. But it's simple, but not easy, if that makes any sense. Simple means it's not complex, but easy is like, oh, anybody could do it. I don't think anybody could do it. But I'm going to show you guys kind of like how to do that. Hey, Ma, I'm focusing on med spas getting more soft wave clients. I currently have one client that I have success with getting more soft wave clients. I know this is limited info, but am I on the right track? Yes, I think so. Very much, Juan. That's exactly what I do. You got a clear niche, med spas. You got a clear sub niche, soft wave. It's working for somebody. Like, now you just want to copy and paste that system and sell it 1,000 more times. That's what Sam Carlson says. Build it once, sell it 1,000 times. I like that definition of it. Just going to read a little bit from my tech stock, and I'll come back to the chat in a second. This is Christian. After the in-person event, I've come back with a lot of ideas. With that said, I have quite a few options. I'm not sure which is the best way to go. My current business is a little unique and does three things. One, custom high-level CRM implementations for sales processes and back-end operations, monthly support and mentoring on how to best use the platform, affiliate community for my high-level affiliates. So we're not a typical agency. I don't have a niche except agency owners and SaaSpreneurs who use high level. I'm used to working on multiple industries for project and my multiple projects at a time. Years ago, I've tried just having the proverbial one offer, one niche. And for all, I was targeting dentists and then realtors. During that time, I was broke and never hit 10K. I realized a big portion of it was that selling to most real estate agents was really hard because most of them genuinely didn't have 2K a month, big majority of them. I only hit 5 figures months. I've done 6 figures per year last 3 years. When I did the thing on my own, put my own twist and position myself as a high level expert. However, I understand my action item now is to find a niche and go all in on one thing. I have a few options. One, go after generating cases for PI attorneys through Google LSA ads. I know one lawyer business growth coach who can make the introductions, find home services businesses with no website and get in the door with a free website to then upsell lead generation, do AI implementation for high ticket coaches doing well. I know one big coach who has asked me about this and told me many coaches are looking for this. The thought of just working with one niche and one offer honestly scares me. Is what would you guys do in my situation? Firstly, one niche and one offer scares everybody. Everybody thinks like, I'm going to lose all this business. In reality, you actually have the opposite effect because your messaging gets stronger, your deliverable gets clearer. You'll actually make more money niche down. So just so you know, the worst client criteria, meaning people who are the brokest in every niche, tend to have two things in common. Single solo, meaning the business is one person. Two, they don't advertise currently. So if you build a niche where like 98% of the people are single solos and don't spend money, you're going to perpetually struggle to make top dollar. So this is what you're experiencing now, where you're working with agency owners and SaaSpreneurs and as a generalist doing shit, and it's working, but it's like it's going to be very difficult to 10x that business because you're dealing with people who themselves are small and are not used to spending money. Ergo, so to me, the same automations that you're doing, and we talked about this a little bit in person, and I probably need to refine this more. But there are companies that have like 100 salespeople or 1,000 salespeople that are chasing and pursuing, and they have all kinds of needs for automation. I would not be their go high level expert. I would just build the tools and rent them the tools. We actually just had a guy at our event named Sonny, and Sonny went to a guy who had a company. I don't even remember what they sell, but they had 100 salespeople, and he went to them and he said, "What's your biggest problem?" And they said that we have constant turnover in salespeople. So we have to like train them over and over and over. And they're constantly asking the same questions. And it throttles our managers and our staff and we would love to automate that somehow. And he said, what if I could build like a custom AI thing programmed on all your commonly answered question and answers. And then if it didn't have it, it would be programmed to not answer questions it doesn't know anything about. And that way, instead of having to constantly ask your managers because they're new, they could just ask the AI and it would give them the help files and just, like search it for them and parse it. And I think they agreed to like 20, 30 grand or something like that. And that's basically like an hour's worth of work for any of you guys who do AI automations. But what made that work is the size of the problem, because they have 100 salespeople and they're dealing with that problem again and again and again and again and again. And the amount of volume and turnover, like $20,000, $30,000 is nothing for that level of scale. So to me, what I would do if I were in your shoes is something akin to that. I would not be Mr. SaaSpreneur. Having said that, like I wouldn't throw away what you've built. It's kind of like Michael, where he built a generalist agency and now he's niching down a physical therapist. And there's like a fading one out slowly as the other kind of comes in. Like you don't burn it to the ground. If you're doing 10K a month, don't make yourself broke, take on work as you need it. But at the same time, be positioning yourself as hey, if you got 100 salespeople, like we can automate this, we can CRM that, right? So to me, like the worst place to be is I'm your custom builder, whatever you want, I'll build. The best place to be is like, I got a tool, I'll rent you access to it. And you'll make more money renting access to tools, and it's easier to fulfill on, and it scales better. Which is, by the way, is like when you go to sell a service company, you get 2 to 3x. I don't know if you guys know that, but if you make $1 million a year and you go to sell your service business, you'll get like 2 to 3 million. If you make a software and you do $1 million a year and you go to sell it, you'll often get 20 million. Who knows how AI will disrupt that? But historically, why is that? Because software is easier to scale. It's a tool. Tools scale easier, right? Like there's a lot more they can do with it. So That's where I would kind of aim that if I was in your shoes. Okay, coming back to the chat. Pet Dogs Hub. I'm selling Dog Groomer's website, and as a hand raiser, I thought of a custom calculator built from the groomer's custom price list. Should this have a setup charge or a low monthly charge billed on GHL? I mean, you can price it any way you want. I'll tell you, your messaging / offer is nobody woke up today and said, I want a calculator. You have to sell the problem the calculator solves, which is the tire kicker. People calling them all day long going, how much is it for haircut? How much is it to train my pet? How much is it for this? If I could eliminate those phone calls and just put a little widget on your site that answered it for you, what would that be worth to you, right? That's where you want to be, closer to that. Punkia. Hey, hi, I can build website and SEO, optimize them pretty well. How would you go on about making your first 1K from this when starting completely fresh without any credibility or social contracts or network? I actually just did a whole training on this channel. Let me just see if I can grab the training for you guys real quick, because it's for those of you guys who are starting out, because there's usually 2 steps in the beginning that everybody skips, which is deciding who you're going to do it for, and finding out their problems so that you can position it as like, this will actually do the thing you want to do. And what happens is, because people skip that, where did I put this? Because people skip that, everything they do is hard. And so I gave like the example in the chat, or in the training. But the reason I did this is like, okay, so my local city, okay, so you have to serve a market need, okay? So imagine you say to yourself, I'm going to sell food. Well, where I live in Mexico, there's literally 1,000 taco places. I can barely drive 3 blocks without coming across a taco place. So if you start a taco place, your business is going to be hard forever, because you got all this competition. There's these downward price pressure in the Facebook community. That's like a local thing. A lot of people frequently ask, hey, is there any place that sells Indian food? And there used to be a guy who did like once a week, he would like take orders and do catering. He moved away. So there's literally 0 places that do Indian food. So if you started an Indian place today, just from the pent up demand of people going, can I get Indian food? You would sell lots of it. And if you're going to run a restaurant and sell food, there isn't really that much difference between we sell tacos and we sell Indian food. But one of those has an actual market need, and you're going to be able to crush it. One of those is saturated as fuck. So the actual most important detail to the client is not that you can do website and SEO, but what are you going to help me, the client, sell as a result of doing website and SEO? And they usually have a menu of services, and they don't value tacos and Indian food equally. So the difference between I'll make a website and SEO, which is just a tool, and I'll make a website and SEO to help you sell Indian food, like their version of that, is what actually makes it go. And that's the step everybody skips. And so then they just start messaging people going, we do websites and SEO, and they get that message 1,000 times a week. But if you go, hey, you know how you've been craving Indian food? Homeboy made it. That message lands. And so that's the place you want to be. And so everybody skips the market research and uncovering the market needs. And if you do that, it's hard. It's hard. And I don't want to make it any harder. This business is hard enough that I don't want you guys to be selling shit that shouldn't exist. And fundamentally, your deliverable ain't that different. So the biggest detail you got to figure out is who you're going to do it for, and who do they want? Like I call it the double who. You solve the double who, everything gets easier. Scotty says, I have a problem deciding on the right home services niche. Any suggestions on choosing the right one? I overthink things and wonder which one is best. Just fucking pick one, dude. I see this all the time. It's an ice cream flavor, not a spouse. So like there's lots of good ice cream flavors. The point of picking a niche, by the way, 4 things. So if you understand that, it's not about like finding some super secret source of money. Regardless of which niche you pick, you're going to do the market research and find an underserved market niche, regardless of which one you pick. But reason number 1, specialists make more money than generalists. Just how it is. Reason number 2, your messaging will be more specific, ergo it will sell more. It'll say something more meaningful. Reason number 3, your fulfillment will get easier because you're just doing the same shit again and again. Reason number 4 is you can identify where those people already hang out, so you can go sort of infiltrate it and sort of get yourself in there. So just fucking pick one, dude. There's so many good ones. The worst thing you can do is just not pick. That's like no decision is already the worst decision. So grab one. Man, I'm late. Hate YouTube doesn't show notifications. Well, you're just not cool enough anymore, Derek. No, just Frankie, Paul says, Frankie, if I do DBR by saying thank you, we appreciate you, is it good to have CloseBot take over and nurture and close them? I mean, that's what we do. CloseBot assists with that. For those of you guys, by the way, not familiar with that, let me see if I can. This is an affiliate link, but our mastermind members, by the way, like, are how I even discovered CloseBot. They swear by it, like literally swear by it. But I believe they have a free trial, so check it out. Juan says, okay, awesome. I just need a better way to reach out to med spas. Currently, I'm selling the outcome, getting more software clients and making more money, but can't get any new clients. Like I said, I'm going to do a training on that this week or next 2 weeks, because everybody thinks you have to do outreach. I don't think you have to do outreach. I think outreach is literally so saturated, it's the hardest way to get clients. Having said that, it can still work. Don't get me wrong. But I'm a huge believer. Zig when everyone else zags. Like, why would you try and do? And med spas, by the way, there are layers to certain niches. One of those is they have gatekeepers. And so like a lot of times if you message them like by email, it's not even getting seen by the owner. That's a whole other discussion. And then if it does get to the owner, they've been pitched 1,000 times that week. So it's like, it's hard to stand out. Having said that, there are definitely ways we can make that work. I'll tell you guys when the training is live on that, and we'll work on that, because I think everybody in our space says you have to do outreach. And so people are convinced you have to do it and you don't. I think there's actually better ways that work even better without all the have to. I book med spa appointments on a pay-per-appointment model. It's a new offer and haven't gotten a ton of traction with DMs yet. Thinking of running paid ads with old ways versus new ways. Thoughts? Yes, but don't skip the market research, because if you do, which it sounds like you have, you're going to sell just more of everything. And I'll tell you the biggest reason, by the way. Most agencies just assume more business equals better. So like, I'll get you appointments equals more business. And the reason is this one little word called margin. So I have seen businesses, for example, they'll be doing 1 million a year and they'll increase their business over like 2 years to 3.5 million. And yet the owner still makes the same money. It's like somebody mentioned home services. Imagine a home, like a roofer or a fence guy or whatever, a deck patio guy or a general contractor, whatever. He goes from 1 million to 3.5 million. At 1 million, he was making 170,000. Now the business is doing 3.5 million. He's making 200. So he got a little bit of a raise, but he has 3 times as many crews. He has more insurance. He has more liability. He has more overhead. He has more shit to worry about. There's more paperwork and all that. So if you just come in and go more, and he's not making margin on it. The reason why I'm big on like the sell the $100 bill, because that's the thing with the margin, is like I'll help you sell your expensive thing. It's like, oh, then I actually as an owner make money. Right. I like making money, and I don't like just like I don't like just making payroll. I like me, the owner, to also get paid. And by the way, there are times in business where you will work just for your staff. They will be getting paid and you won't. And it really sucks when it happens. It happens to businesses all the fucking time. So if you just come in and say more appointments, it doesn't really solve the margin problem. So do the market research, figure out the expensive things they want to get booked, and focus on that. And that whole old plan, new plan framework will work even better. I was thinking of partnering with, this is Sebastian here. I was thinking of partnering with cabinet suppliers to give their remodeler audience a webinar on lead gen. Any advice on this? Yes. Make the webinar about selling cabinet supplies. Hey, you want to sell a whole bunch more cabinets? Because then what happens is, the cabinet supplier, it taps into their self-interest. What does a cabinet supplier want to do? They want to sell fucking cabinets, right? So if you make that webinar, if what most people do is like, hey, here's how we're going to get you found in Google, or here's how you can run ads. Even though that's maybe what you teach them inside of it, focus on what the cabinet supplier wants. Is like, hey, what do you think if we did a free training showing your people how they can sell the fuck out of cabinets? really? Right? You're going to help my people sell my thing? That's right. Right? So that's where you want it to be, because then their self-interest makes them say yes to it. Do you have any Claude Code skills or workflows you always use? No, I'm not that cool. I actually use ChatGPT like 99% because I'm mostly creating tools that share with people. I know there's tons that can be done with Claude Code, but I'm just not that cool. Well, now I can't wait for the training. Yeah, part of it is I'm going to lay out just a menu of options for you guys for every way that you can grow this business without having to do digital door knocking. And there's a lot of ways that work, by the way. I'm going to kind of just lay them out step by step, like step 1, step 2, step 3, kind of thing. And I just want to take people off of this idea that you have to be doing cold outreach. There's so many fucking videos on cold outreach. And part of it is there's so many damn videos on cold outreach that now everybody thinks they have to do it. And it's like, you don't. In fact, the only thing I ever really use cold outreach for these days is to test new offers, to get skeptical ass strangers to give me brutal feedback. Solo 360 Digital. Do you see generalist agencies still succeeding? I've worked with 3 types of companies so far, but I have a resume in corporate and startups. Recently got laid off going all in on this full time. Firstly, dude or dudette, congrats. Going full time is a big milestone. Big milestone. And I'll tell you, for me, when I first went solo, it's probably about 4 years before I actually felt like I was making real money. And it was probably 7 years before I felt like I could get back there, even if I lost it all. So it was only like 7 years in it where I was like, okay, I'm actually okay. Like, I don't ever have to go back to the workforce ever again. So I commend you for getting into that. But just so you know, you may still feel like an employee in your head. I still worked like 9 to 5 because like I was supposed to, right? Like that's the work schedule. I still worked like an employee when I went Han Solo. I don't know why. I worked Monday to Friday, like 9 to 5, like I was supposed to. As far as 3 different companies, it's okay to be a generalist. Just so you know, you can succeed as a generalist. In fact, I actually have generalist friends that do $10 million and above. So you can be big as a generalist. What I will tell you is that for every one generalist I see succeed, like really make it, I see 20 specialists. So that's why I'm like big on be a specialist, because you dramatically increase your odds. But having said that, I think a good path, start out as a generalist, take what you can get. And then when you have a couple of clients, ask yourself, which one of these clients would I want to clone? Like if I had to go all in on one of them, which one would it be? And usually it's the one who pays you the most money, is the easiest to help. Like that's your niche, just so you know. But I think it's okay to start as a generalist. Jasmine. Hey, Frankie, are you hiring so I could be a part of your team and bring value? And I can't forget learning from the golden dad guns. So, I'm really not, Jasmine. I mean, I get offers to like do cool shit together, and I'm not opposed to that. Part of the reason is I've had big teams and low margins and lots of stress from it. And I intentionally designed my business to be fun and low stress now. It's like, I swear to God, like it's probably nobody else will tell you to do this, but this is where I'm at. Like everything is optimized for fun. I'm like, if I'm having a good time doing it. So I'm not necessarily hiring and my team's kind of lean, but if you think there's a chance for us to do something cool, like I'm open to arrangements. You can shoot me a message after, we can talk about it. Frankie, I can't get into the Facebook group for some reason. You mean my Facebook group? Like the Beyond Agency Profits? Maybe you could send me a message, because what happens sometimes, by the way, almost all of the spam that we get in the Facebook group is from new accounts. So like if your Facebook account is like a year and a half or 2 years or younger, we tend to like block those ones. But if you message us and say, no, it's really me, we'll let you in. It's just like almost all the headaches come from new accounts that aren't often real people. So, but if you just message and say, no, it's me, I'm a real person, can you let me in? We'll let you in. Unless it's like an algorithm thing. With the cabinets thing, I wanted to tap into their remodeler audience email list and offer a webinar to them, but selling the cabinets is a good idea. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, if they have a webinar for selling cabinets, and it's going to help them, they will promote it to their email list. They will share it. They will post about it. They will tell people. What you got to do is make it easy for them and give them the email, give them the post, give them the materials to let people know that you're going to do it. So they just have to copy and paste kind of thing. But if it's in their own self-interest, because they want to sell cabinets, they'll promote you indirectly. And you just tell them like, hey, it's going to be all value. There's no hard pitch. I'm just going to show them how to sell cabinets. People may want to reach out and work with me after, but like, there's no hard sell or anything like that. They'll like, all right, cool. Michael says conundrum. There's a word. That's a good English word. One of my core products is helping businesses get more Google reviews. My current agency has 60 plus 5-star reviews on our Google business profile. Now I'm niching down into physical therapy as I start reaching out to shoe stores and booking interviews. My new niche business won't have any Google reviews yet. See the problem? Would you point prospects back to my current generalist Google business profile and say, here's proof we do what we say we do? Or is that a bad idea because it's a different brand and niche? I actually think you can sell it just fine without Google reviews. I did a video on this so proof is one of the best ways to sell clients. So you guys are correct in that. But what people incorrectly assume is that the only valid proof is clients, case studies, reviews. And those are certainly valid, like useful pieces of proof. And if you got them, use them. But you'd be amazed that even when you build a big agency, a lot of times you can't always use that. So for me, like a lot of times, like when we got really big, like lawyers would say, can we talk to your past clients and can we, read your reviews? And my clients were fucking busy. And like, we were doing a lot of calls back in those days. It's like, I can't just anytime somebody's halfway interested, have them call my client. Like they got a law practice to run, we got 50 of these. Do you think if they all want to call my clients, do you think they got nothing to do but take calls from everybody who's like halfway interested? So there are lots of ways to sort of generate proof. I'm going to show you guys a video I did on that. I'll just send a link to you, Michael, and I would check that out. But yes, you're going to want to demonstrate proof, but it's not like people think. Here we go. All right. I'll call it for you, proof without reviews. And, I actually, when I used to do webinars, I tapped into this kind of, I was just trying to provide examples of what I was saying in the content. So one of the things I would tell them, like, for example, is that every lawyer sounds the same to clients. And they all say, no fee unless we win. And we'll fight hard. We're aggressive. We're the best. They all kind of say that. And originally I was just saying it as a slide. And then I was like, how can I prove that this is true? Lawyer websites. And I made a little collage of lawyer websites that literally all said the same shit. It's like this guy. So like, if it looks all the same to you, how do you think a target client? And then I showed a couple of examples of lawyers saying something different. And I was like, this is where you need to be. I never said I did any of that for clients. I never said that was me, but nonetheless, it's a form of proof as me as an expert, because I'm giving you insight into the fact that, hey, you probably sound like everyone else when you need to sound different, kind of like this. And they don't demonstrate that you know how to fix the problem and you know where it's happening and what's going on. So I suggest you watch that video just because it'll show you how to create proof without reviews. So obviously in your current setup, you got reviews, they help, use them. And in your new thing, obviously, like, maybe you want to build towards those reviews. But having said that, it's not a make or break detail. I've sold like literally tens of millions of dollars of shit over the years. I don't think I have a single Google review, just so you know. I bought your book on an audio and PDF, and it's absolute gold. Appreciate you, Juan. Yeah, but just so you guys know, when I wrote that book, like a lot of times I've had friends who've written books and they're like, you watch, I'm going to become a best-selling author. I was like, this is like, internet marketing is a niche and agency owners is a niche within a niche. And I was like, if just one person gets value out of this, I'll write it just for one person. And, a couple times a week, somebody messages me and says it changed their life. And I'm like, that's awesome. I never thought that's what would happen. Frankie says, this is Jeremiah. I was wondering if you do one-to-one consultations. How can I book one? I do. Either shoot me an email or send me a Facebook message and just tell me you're interested. I don't usually advertise it because my time is like usually in short supply as a general rule. But having said that, if you want to sit down and work on your shit, we can. Just so you know, as far as like pricing, how I do my consultations, I had a really hard time pricing it because I have people all over the spectrum. So I get somebody like I get people who do consults with me. They're doing 10 million a year and they're trying to, eliminate operational waste and things like that. And they, sometimes leave me $1,000 to pick my brain for 10 minutes. And I've also had like a beginner who's like, dude, I got $100 to my name. They like gave me $50, which I was blown away. So I just have like a tip jar, like, whatever it's worth to you, because I don't even know how to price it anymore. I don't even know what the fuck to do with that, but that's how I do it. Jasmine, I believe we're friends on Facebook. I check my Facebook or email is cool too. Don't be upset, by the way. I've been a little slow with responding to stuff. Don't be upset if I need a day or two to get back to you. I've just been mountains of messages behind since our LA event, but I'm okay with it. Just so you guys know, I'm okay with my phone blowing up and me not getting to everything. Let me just go back to the doc here. We got a couple questions. Love Deep. What a cool name. Your parents must have loved you deep. But I'm bumped. For the agency owners still in the trenches, need some advice from agency owners who are still in the trenches and have secured their first 4 to 5 paid clients in their first 45 to 60 days. I'm starting my agency after a long while. I've gone through Frankie's book and his documented 90-day challenge to build a 10K to 20K per month agency. I've done thousands of cold outreach, SMS and Facebook outreach when I used to run my agency, but the trust is too low right now in the market. I would need to send thousands of messages, one-to-one cold outreach on Facebook to get a response. It might work, but it's not as efficient as it was 2 years ago. However, what I noticed on Frankie's challenge was the partnership methods. I think that's a cheat code to get instant authority, trust, and access to hundreds, if not thousands of ideal clients. Shoe buyers and Frankie managed to get 15.6K in just 26 days. However, that was roughly 3 years ago. So I believe the market would have somewhat changed since then. So my question is, who here has tried the process and achieved similar results to the Frankie challenge in the last 6 to 12 months, scaled your agency to 10K per month? What are the bottlenecks that you face with the partnership method while reaching out to audience owners, getting referrals from them? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Frankie Finn. So just so you know, nothing about that has changed in the 2-3 years or whatever it's been. Nothing, literally nothing. Having said that, I mentioned this before, but I think the single biggest thing that most agency owners skip is doing the market research to find what people want, need, where they're stuck, and identifying a truly unmet market need. And they're small, not big. Like, we're not talking about launching rockets into space. I'll give you an example, like how I discovered one of them. I was sitting with an attorney and they said, Frankie, I really want the big cases. And I said, yeah, doesn't everybody? And they explained to me that with a small case or a big case, it doesn't make any difference. There's paperwork to be filed. There's evidence to be gathered. There's meetings, and there's sometimes court, and there's back and forth with the insurance company. They said, I have to do the work regardless. But if it's a small case, I get a little fee. And if it's a big case, I get a much bigger fee. If I'm going to do all that work, I'd way rather get a bigger fee. And then I said, out of curiosity, what are the bigger cases to you? And they said, well, wrongful death, somebody dies. They said, trucking accident cases, like when there's a tractor trailer involved. They said motorcycle cases. And I remember in my head, I went ding, 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 ding. I think I could get motorcycle cases. And I thought about it and I was like, I could target motorcycle riders on Facebook and I could advertise to motorcycle people and I could do stuff. I think we could get motorcycle cases. And I talked to another guy who was doing stuff with Facebook ads, and it turned out he actually had a system. I rented the system from him. So the difference between I'll do Facebook ads and I'll do Facebook ads to get you the big cases is not like this monumental shift, but the I'll get you the big cases served a market need. And it actually, like for them, it was the same amount of work. So it was actually easier to get one big case than 20 small ones, even though they were the same amount of money. Right. So it's like, if you could bring me big cases, I'm in for that all day, every day. Had I skipped the market research, I knew how to do Facebook ads, and I knew how to do SEO. So I'd probably be like, we do ads, or we do SEO, or I know how to make websites. We can make websites. And the most important detail for all of you guys to figure out, besides who you want to do this for, pick a niche, is who are they trying to get? Who are they trying to get? If you can answer that question correctly, all of your shit will get easier, because typically most marketers focus on what I call the undefined generic more leads, more sales, more customers, more patients, more jobs, more. But as I mentioned, if you have like a home services guy, he does $1 million a year and he goes to $3.5 million a year, and his margins have not increased, but his responsibility has 3x. More is not appealing. Like more work, more paperwork, more teams to manage. Bigger is appealing, because bigger is, I get to actually get paid. So almost always what you're actually trying to figure out, what is bigger for them, and they typically don't know how to get that. And it's a little bit of market research, but if you do it, you say you have to send thousands of outreach messages. I think that's a consequence of twofold. One, you don't actually have something they want. Two, there's a lot of people messaging them. Those two things create a recipe where you have to send 1,000 messages to get 1, 2, 3 interested replies. Having said that, like when you actually get what they want, sometimes I'll send 5 messages and get 3 people to work with me, right? Because I've spent a lot of time researching, like, this is the thing, and I'm the only one who has it, right? So that's the place you want to be coming from. Having said that, with partnerships don't go out of style. I learned that, years of working with Travis Sago, that there are digital assets, things that, so like, I don't know if any of you guys read Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but he says you want your money to come from assets. So he talked about a lot about real world assets, own real estate, own businesses, own gold, own stocks, things like that, and get paid because you own those things. That's how you become rich. It took me a lot of years to realize there were digital equivalents. And I think the most valuable digital resource is an audience with a relationship. So you mentioned the trust factor. And what's useful to know is that people with audiences got problems, and many of them. And the biggest problem is, and I'll tell you, I'm a guy who has an audience. I'm not like the biggest audience in the world, but I got one. And there are plenty of things that people have problems with that I don't cover. So like, people will ask me all the time, what's the best tool or software for blank? I don't make it. It ain't my thing. So I have to go figure out on their behalf what will help them and assist them to do it, right? So the reason I say that is, what you have to do is first serve the audience owner's self-interest. If you do that, and it's about them and what they're trying to do, they will always help you, not because they like you and they love you and they trust you. It serves their self-interest. I'll give you a small example of this, okay? The first time I ever got in an audience owner, I was on LinkedIn, and I was just connecting, just friending people, or connecting, on LinkedIn with people in the legal space. This is my second agency. And I saw Attorney at Law magazine, and I friended the publisher. I was like, that's cool. And I had to message him. I was like, dude, you're the publisher at Attorney at Law magazine? That's cool. What's a day like being you? And he said, well, I was supposed to have the magazine published, and 3 hours ago, one of my writers just bailed. So I have a missing page, and I need a magazine quality article. So I'm kind of grumpy this morning because I got to write an article. And I said, really? I said, I'll get you a magazine quality article in 45 minutes. Just give me a minute and I'll get it done, and I'll get it for you. And he said, really? And I said, yes. And I wrote him an article and I sent it to him, and he published it. No questions asked. Now, my question is, do you think he published it because my trust and my expertise, because he loved me and thought I was so smart? Or do you think he published it because he didn't want to fucking write an article and I was doing his work for him? So when it serves their self-interest, that's why audience owners work with you. So I don't remember who said it earlier, but they mentioned they're going to work with cabinet suppliers so they can get to the remodeling people. If you help the cabinet suppliers sell more cabinets, which is their agenda, what they're trying to do, they'll promote you in the process, not because they want to promote you and believe in you and trust you and think you're so amazing, because they just want to sell some fucking cabinets, right? That's why they're going to do it. So the biggest piece with like building partnerships is you have to serve their self-interest and then get creative about how to make that fit into you. And there, you know, we could talk for days about how to do that, but the reason they're not, it's like, it doesn't go out of style. It's not like this is like human psychology that's not going to change, and it won't change in 100 years either. There will be people with audiences, and those you can get into them, but the reason you get into them is because it's their self-interest. So the biggest thing, like most people do, is they show up and they try and tell people who they are. And I'm thinking about who are they, or like, who is this shoe store? What are they trying to do? What are they trying to sell? How are they doing it? How could I help them do what they're trying to do? And in doing so, get me inside of it. That sounds like need a little foreplay in there, but they're not promoting you because they think you're so awesome and they trust you and all those things. Like, he didn't publish my magazine article because I think you're just the greatest expert. It's like, I got to finish this shit and I got 3 hours and I got better shit to do with my time. Cool. I'll do your job. I will do your work for you. They like that. Where should I keep an eye out for the training you mentioned on connecting with ICP on YouTube? I will certainly post the replay on YouTube when it's done. I'll announce it on Facebook. It's really like, I just got to go through and rack my brain for like every way I can think of that you can get clients without, having to message strangers and go, buy my shit. Let's jump on a call to buy my shit, which is what most people do. Let me just answer the last question in our text doc, or we got two. Paul says, Frankie Finn, when doing database reactivation, it is better to have AI nurture them. Yes, with a but. Figure out what to do manually and then program AI to do it. Because I don't think enough people even know what nurture really is. So like, what most people think nurture is, because I get pitched a lot, is they go, just bumping this to your inbox, making sure you saw this. Did you get a chance to see my blank? If you program AI to do that, it'll just annoy people quickly. So you have to figure out first how to nurture them manually and then program AI to do it. But you already mentioned CloseBot, so you're on the right track with the best tool to do that. Tim says, I don't have testimonials, case study, and hands-on experience of what I'm going to sell. Google reputation management, make a smart website with AI chatbot, an appointment booking function. And worse, I'm having a day job occupying most of my time with only a few hundred saved per month. Worse, that damn job is not secure, meaning I will sooner or later be fired. If you were me, what would you do to change the situation? Is it possible to use 5-minute VSL to close strangers in this situation? Yes. But Tim, you're making the cardinal mistake, which is you actually don't know what your market wants. Your market, by the way, did not wake up and say, I want a Google reputation management, a smart website with AI chatbot, and an appointment booking function. This is why I say you have to figure out who they're trying to sell. Like I gave the example earlier with roofers. They can get little $99 shingle repairs and drive around town. They can also get a $400,000 flat roof. If you say, hey, we figured out how to get $400,000 flat roofing projects. And the way we do that is by making your reviews crush it, making a website that sells commercial roofing and has a chat bot to answer all their questions and then automatically books appointments. So you'll get estimates in the calendar. Even though that you think that's the same thing, it'll land differently because you're speaking to what matters to them is selling the thing that creates margin for them. So too many people come up with packages without any real clue what people want. Having said that, it sucks to have a job where you don't even feel safe, but I think it's also a blessing in disguise because the truth is no job is really safe. Like I worked with the Ford Motor Company and I was a mid manager. So I was a supervisor and I got in really, really young. And I remember it wasn't normal for someone like 20, 21 to be a floor supervisor. There were a couple young kids, but most of them were like 40 to 60 kind of range. And I remember when I quit, My mom was like devastated because it was a big company and they had health benefits and you could just work your way up the corporate ladder and you can retire soon and all those kind of things. And I saw the writing on the wall while I was there because they had a sister plant that was actually here in Mexico, and they made better quality. They were faster, they were cheaper. And every day the meetings were like, how can we make our shit as good as Mexico so they don't outsource all the jobs to Mexico? So I quit somewhere around 2007. They laid off everyone 22 years and less. So all these people thought they had a safe, stable, secure job. They went, bloop, fired. Fuck you. Go find something else. So I've learned you can fail at plan B. So you might as well go all in on plan A. But you have to spend time uncovering market needs. If you don't, you're going to sell shit nobody wants. Like, this is the biggest mistake I see. Is like you're coming up with a package before you're knowing what you're trying to do for them. So you got reputation management, smart website, appointment booking. And all of this, by the way, comes from the assumption that more equals better. As long as we're getting them more business, it's better. But it doesn't always, because a lot of times, because of the margin, more work just makes them busier, but they don't actually make any more money. But if you solve the margin problem, they'll like you a lot more. You know, my first experience with this, I was sitting with a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, and we were getting him more. And most of more in plastic surgery is breast implants, like fake titties. That's the number one sale. Get those big old knockers, right? And he said to me, he said, Frankie, I don't really want to sell breast augmentation. And I was like, really? Why not? And he said, well, it's usually $6,000. He said the OR, which stands for operating room, costs me $2,000. So like I go to the hospital, it's like $2,000 to $3,000 to rent the room for an hour. He says, then there's all like the anesthetics and the equipment and all that. That's like another $1,000. He said the nurse gets paid. He said Allergan, the company that makes the silicone fake titties, he said they charge like $1,500 for that. He's like, you add up all those costs, I don't even make any money. And I'm liable. If something bad happens, I can be sued. It's like, so not only am I not making money, but I'm risking a lawsuit. To me, is there any way you could get me mommy makeovers? And I realized that they want to sell the more expensive things and the reasons why. And so I thought I was doing awesome, bringing him all these breast augmentation. And then he was like, nah, bro, I don't make anything from that. I'm just working for free. And you don't want to make your clients work for free. So don't piecemeal packages. Do the fucking research. You'll be smarter. And by the way, the market research bot is in the chat, but I'll post it again because if you skip the what are they trying to sell? If you skip that detail, everything you do is going to be hard. Market research bot. Ba-jing. All right, let's catch up on the chat. Sebastian says, where should I keep, or Mohammed says, hello, Frankie. What's up, dude? Sebastian says, where should I keep an eye out for the training you mentioned on connecting with ICP? Oh, yeah, I mentioned that already. Sorry. Frankie, Paul says, I find selling AI micro tools interesting because the tool is the fulfillment and it's blue ocean. But I think the AI should be much more hard to copy than a simple custom GPT. What do you think there? I haven't had anybody steal any of our micro tools, just, even though they would be easy to recreate. And I'll tell you why. Most businesses, one, don't want to learn AI. They're aware of it to some degree, but they don't want to learn it. And two, part of what we do with AI micro tools that's different than everyone else is 99% of people, 99.9% of people that are learning AI are obsessed about marketing applications. Creating content, videos, chatbots, funnels, voice answering solution. Almost nobody is using it for boring fulfillment stuff. So we got a guy in our mastermind, his name's Mike, and he built an AI micro tool. And it wasn't meant to be a tool to be sold. So his wife's an assistant principal. And once every quarter, so 4 times a year, she has to go around the school and she has to analyze every classroom, and she has like a checklist of shit. And then at the end of it, she has to make this big old custom report based on all the checklists. And it used to take her like 20 hours every time she did it. So it's like 80 hours a year. And Mike built her a little custom AI application where you just upload the checklist and it'll output the finished report. Boring fulfillment problem, by the way. That ain't like an AI chatbot. That ain't increase your sales. That ain't any of those things. And ain't nobody else trying to solve that problem still today. So I was like, hey, Mike, you built that tool for your assistant principal. How many other assistant principals could do the same stupid ass checklist? How many of them would pay money to get that? I don't know whether he ended up selling that or not, but there's an example of an AI micro tool. And nobody's going to clone that because nobody's even looking at that problem. There's always unmet needs in every market. Like, part of what makes it secure is not that it could be easily cloned. It's that it's an unmet need that nobody's looking at. Matt says, I watched a lot of your videos and understand some of your concepts. All I know to do right now is website. How can I practically bring X type of client and like guarantee it? All I know is websites, not SEO. Love your stuff, by the way. Bought the book. Appreciate you, Matt. So firstly, it is a misnomer to think you're actually selling websites. You're not. You're selling who the website is focused on bringing them, right? This is the thing I didn't understand. When I thought in my mind I was selling websites, I talked about things like fast loading, mobile optimized, WordPress, SEO optimized, things like that. And you know who cared? Nobody. They just bought it because they got told they should have a website. When I started making websites that focused on helping them sell their thing, I got a lot more money. Now, you can't honestly look somebody in the face and say that a website alone will bring them all the business, but you can tell them the truth, which is it's a very, very, very fucking important piece. So for example, like I mentioned earlier, we were talking about roofers. Roofers can do little $99 shingle repairs and they can do $400,000 flat roofs. If I was selling to a roofer, I wouldn't say I'll make you a mobile optimized WordPress site. I'd say, have you ever thought about selling flat roofing? I can make you a website that is 100% dedicated and focused on selling flat roofing projects. Now, you'll still have to do other things. You'll still have to do some SEO or something to drive traffic to it. But man, what a useful piece it would be for you to have a website that's entirely focused on selling high-end projects. Would you be interested in something like that? That's how you do it. So you have to figure out what your target market is trying to sell through the website. And you talk about not the website that facilitates that, but you talk about the thing being sold through the website. So for me back in the day, it was like, we can help you get mommy makeover patients, or we can help you get rhinoplasty patients, or we can help you get facelifts. The weird fucking, we can help you get those, right? They didn't care that it was a WordPress website that helped them sell facelifts. And in their mind, now it becomes an investment. If I just book 1 or 2 surgeries, right? In your case, even if you do a flat roofing website and they get 1 job over the next 3 years, even if you charge them 20 grand, that website's still a discount. Hey, Frankie, love your content. My question for you is, how would you approach a used car dealership owner or mechanic shop owner to do automation or build inventory related tools? Good question, Alan. I mean, I would figure out what they're trying to automate. Like, that's what I would talk about, not the automation. So to me, I don't necessarily know what that is, but we could run the market research bot. Actually, let's do that right now. We'll click on market research bot. What are used car dealerships most trying? What are used car dealerships doing manually every day that AI could easily automate? So calling internet leads who never answered, texting leads after hour, following up with unsold showroom visitors, re-engaging people who stopped responding, answering, is this car still available? So like that one right there is probably how I'd lead it. That's probably what the number one thing they're doing on a daily basis is getting, posting Facebook and, Marketplace and Craigslist and responding to people going, is this car still available? Like, hey, what if I build an automation so you didn't have to keep fucking answering? Is this car still available? And it would start escalating those conversations for you. That's probably the number one thing. And then you mentioned inventory related tools. I don't necessarily know what their problems are, but you could ask, how about problems related to inventory? Let's see what it says. By the way, this, just so you guys are watching me do this, like, I mean, obviously you're not seeing my chat, but you guys are kind of watching. I always start with the problems, not with what am I going to sell. So they're manually checking auctions. They're comparing similar vehicles. They're trying to estimate resale value. They're trying to guess what will sell. They're pricing trade-ins. They're buying the wrong cars. So it sounds like there's a lot of like due diligence related to every time they get a new car. Like you could automate some of that due diligence, and they probably jizz all over themselves. Just if you could automate some of the things. By the way, if you want to make money doing automations, start with the question, what the fuck are they spending all their time on? That's what I'm basically asking AIs. Like, what are they spending all their time doing? And if you could point to, this is what you're spending all your time doing, and I could automate that. If you can eliminate manual, painful shit, money will come to you in the form. But what you don't want to do is show up and be like, I do automations. Who the fuck wants some automation, motherfucker? Because the answer to that question is nobody. We got Matt again. Sorry. Whoops. Dude, I don't know how you manage to tell the same stories 1,000 times a day and not get annoyed by it. Well, I mean, they're metaphors that help illustrate the point. But honestly, like it's partly because, like I said, this is therapy for me. Like the first 10 years, it was so hard for me because I felt so fucking alone. Like I really didn't know anybody doing this. I had one other guy. I treasured everything we shared with each other, but it was hard. Like I didn't know how to do shit, and I didn't know how to. And because of it, it was like the minute now that I get to talk about this every day, it's kind of a blessing that I don't get to shut up about it. Mohammed says, also for cold DM outreach, should I be direct and send a personalized Loom video right away, or open a chat first with a low friction foot in the door offer like a database reactivation? You can do both. Most important detail is make sure you got something they want and that you're talking to buyers. I actually did a video just breaking down, like, if you're going to do outreach, which is not my favorite way of doing it, but I get asked about it so much. Let me see if I can find it for you. Okay, I can't find. I'll have to like put it in the chat or something, or reply to you after. Where did I do it? This is back when we used to do sales calls, by the way. All right, hold on. Here you go. Actually, I found it. I'm going to give you a video where I go deeper on this. Because there's a lot of things people do wrong in outreach that even before you get started will make it so you're never going to make anything. You like literally make zero. Where are we going with this? Hey, Frankie, I want to sell AI voice agents for roofers in the US, and it helps them with after hours and weekend calls in addition with working all. Is this something I should pursue? I mean, we got guys selling it. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing they're buying in their mind is not, I want an AI receptionist, is we've heard from contractors, I don't want to pick up my phone anymore. And when they say, why not? They say, it's just fucking spam calls. They say it's either Angie's List going, hey, you want to buy some leads from Angie's List? They say it's people looking for a job. Hey, are you hiring? They say it's SEO from India. Hello, sir, we can get you top Google #1 ranking. They also say, get robocalls, like automated kind of things. And they're like, I don't even want to pick up my phone. And so how we're selling that is not going, hey, do you want an AI receptionist? We're going, what if you never had to talk to the spammers ever again? And what if Samantha, our AI voice agent, could do that for you? As far as doing it from India, there is an element of like, people don't trust marketers, and people especially don't trust marketers from India. So part of it is usually to get them started, you have to give them terms. I think the easiest way to give terms with an AI receptionist is, hey, if we could set this up for you and just do pay as you go. So you didn't have to pay anything unless you actually used it and liked it. Would you be open to that? And then you make it a lower risk. And if you lower the risk, they're more likely to do it, even if you're in India or anywhere else really in the world. Sebastian says, I was thinking of creating a podcast series of talking to remodelers and then turning those insights into a book. Would you recommend this? Yes. I think both a podcast and it depends what you're trying to build, actually, I should say, Sebastian, but that is a recipe for being a niche authority where people look at you and say, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a agency niche authority. I've engineered that on purpose. I consider there to be 3 levels of positioning in any marketplace. So there's the lowest level. I call him Jerry Generalist. And Jerry Generalist is like, I'll do anything for a credit card, right? And that's usually the lowest paid guy. And he's the busiest and has the most amount of work. And his life is the most miserable as a general rule. Second, I call Steven Specialist. This is what I'm telling most of you guys to niche down and, just do it for roofers, just do it for plumbers, just do it for dentists, whatever. The specialist often makes 4 times as much money doing the same shit. Now, there is a level past it that I call Cedric Celebrity Authority. Celebrity Authority is a specialist, but they've engineered it so that media creates a reputation before they talk. And 2 of the best ways to create a reputation, podcast and a book. There's actually 7 ways you can do it: podcast, book, speaking on stage, magazine, TV, referral from somebody or a recommendation from somebody influential, being interviewed. Those are some of the examples. But what you do is you create niche authority where people just assume you're the best at it and trust you because you have all the surrounding pieces. And by the way, the celebrity authority gets paid usually 4 to 5 times as much as the specialist. So it would blow my mind when I was a generalist. Selling a website for $1,000 was hard. When I was a specialist, I'd get $5 to 10 grand for it. And when I became a celebrity authority, you can charge $100,000 for a website. To the same people, by the way, who will talk to somebody and say $500, that's a lot of money. So that's a recipe for you to become a celebrity authority. But having said that, I would only engineer celebrity authority if you're sure that's your niche and you're sure you want to be in it long term and you're sure you want to keep building in it because it will pay for itself for years and years and years and years. Like, I'm the guy who wrote the book on the topic is pretty powerful statement to be able to make. So I wouldn't do that if you're still niche shopping or whatever. But if you're sure you want to go all in on what you're in on, 100%. Alan Partridge says, just in, not sure if you've touched on it, but when reaching out to shoe stores, would you look to initiate a conversation before providing value, or would you just hit them with value from the get-go? I usually do 1 of 3 things, and all of them, by the way, are a transfer of value. So one of them is, can I interview you? The value being transferred is reputation. I think you're cool, and you have a lot of interesting things to say. It's sort of implied. Second thing is co-create content. Then the value being transferred is they had to make content and you're sort of doing their work for them. Or the third thing is I do something cool for them without being prompted or asked. And usually I just do whatever one of those is easiest for me. If I'm not sure, by the way, I'll just default to can I interview you? That's usually my default if I don't know where I'm going to go. You're a genuine guy. I love watching your stuff. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know I would, just so you guys know, if I did more 0 to 10K, look how much stripe payment. I know I would attract more people, but I also think I would have a dumber audience. And I love you guys because you're actually out there doing it, trying shit. Even if you're finding difficulty and resistance. I don't usually like people that are dreamers that never do shit. So I'm not going for sheer numbers, just so you guys know. People always go you should have bigger numbers. But I'm yeah, I'm talking to the people who do shit, not to the people who dream about it. If I talk to the people who dream it, I could 20x my audience size, but I don't want that. First thought you were related to Jake Johnson, New Girl, LOL. Anyways, do you feel, I don't know that reference. So, but never seen it. So anyways, do you feel your cheap YouTube ad strategy is still effective today, picked up from your ebook YouTube video? Let me actually open it right now. I'll tell you what my stats say. We'll take a screenshot of this shit in real time. I think YouTube Live has a screen share button. Let me see if I can find a fucking screen share button. Let's see if this works. So I don't know. You tell me. Is it still working? I've been seen almost 90 million times. Yeah. Fuck you. Close that. But those are my stats. Okay. I'd say it's working. Personally, I'm okay with it. And those are still running today, just to answer your question. Jorge, what if I'm a shy bee and scared to be on stage and podcasts? You got to shave your vagina. No, I'm just kidding with you. I think it's a very valid thing if you're like more introverted and you don't want to be on stage and podcasts, and like you don't have to be on stages and podcasts. I find if you're more introverted, or you just don't want to be niche famous and you're not like extrovert. I get a high from speaking on stage. I think it's really cool. But having said that, like that's not for everybody. Then I tend to do more sort of like back of house. So like referral partners work really good. Publishing a book and having people read it and come to you. Written stuff tends to be really good. You know, a blog or, you know, like a community where you're texting and things like that. You're going to have to help people in one form or another. But there's no rule that says you got to be a big talking head face of the brand. So, you know, it's just our way. I always hate when gurus are like, this is the way and you must do it. There's multiple ways. Like we got a guy, for example, he's really big on automations. And so we published a little mini guide on how to automate and stay compliant in his niche. And it's basically like a book, but it's a small book. And we published it because he didn't want to talk to people. And now we just run ads to the book. The book does the selling. People reach out to him. We did that because he didn't want to talk. So, you know, you can be a talking head, but there's ways to not be a talking head too if you don't want to. Hey, Frankie, how do I reach roofer and contractors? So I think with any niche, just so you know, there's typically about 80% non-buyers. So like you're mentioning roofers, but 80% of roofers do not buy marketing services, not with any consistency, and 20% do. So I hyper focus on the 20% that do. And the way I find them is I just find all the shit they're buying. Who, you know, they're buying expertise, a roofing mastermind, a roofing coaching program. They're going to events. They're going to RoofCon 2000. They're buying supplies, right? Like they're buying shit tons of shingles. They buy roofing CRM or Job Nimbus or whatever it is. And, you know, I just reverse engineer all the things they're buying and then I go connect with those people. It's like, it's not super complicated. D-Rob says, hey, I've been watching your videos and great content, but my problem is sure anyone can create an offer, guarantee X calls per leads, but is actually generating those results is what no one is talking about. Yeah, obviously like getting results is a big piece of the equation. I think for most people, like it's, I actually don't like using the word guaranteed and shit. I know everybody else talks about that. Guarantee I'll get you blah, blah, blah. Because the truth is there's nothing guaranteed about advertising. Anybody who's done advertising for a period of time has like had both good and bad experiences and usually more bad ones. So this idea like guaranteed, like I don't do that. I think that actually just triggers scam when you're talking to like really sophisticated business owners, generally speaking, the ones who actually have money. But as far as fulfilling on it, I've always focused on bringing them specific types of people, and it's really just creating congruency. Like when the first time I ever did this and I generated mommy makeover patients, we ranked their website the first thing we did is we looked at mommy makeover keywords, people looking for that. Then we built a website that was all about mommy makeovers. And then we focused on, you know, building content around mommy makeovers. And we did lots of things to optimize and rank the website for mommy makeovers so that when the phone rang, it was the kind of person they wanted to. I mean, that to me is the I'll bring you this type of lead call, whatever, is like basically the process in a nutshell, is just aim it at the person. Cold DM or cold call or Facebook group. The answer to all those questions is yes. And I know this throws people off, but too many people think about that question and not the question I think like that matters, which is what does the person you're cold DMing or cold calling or messaging on Facebook or talking to in a group, what do they actually want? Too many people obsess. Like I'll get people who, I see this all the time in ad groups. So I'm part of like Facebook ad groups and Google ad groups and YouTube ad groups. anybody who's advertised for a period of time has experienced it not working. And so I'll see people, they'll run ads, they'll run like, say, Meta ads, they're running like Facebook ads, and it's not working. And the number one question that is always in the comments is, what's your campaign settings? Are you doing this? All right. And it's always technical shit. And my question is always like, fuck the tech shit. What are you actually offering the person? And if you skip that detail, like, you're going to obsess about a bunch of shit that don't matter. So to me, like, can you cold DM them? Yeah. Can you cold call them? Yeah. Can you Facebook group? Yes. But what are you going to offer the human? Skip that detail and you'll focus on the wrong thing that doesn't matter. Although I did a video recently and I just put it in the chat, but I'll paste it again, where I lay out how to do cold DMing, because there's a couple of things people skip in that process. Most importantly is making sure you're talking to people who spend money on what you sell. If you skip that, it don't matter what the fuck you do. If you talk to people who don't spend money on what you do, I don't care what you say in a message. And then secondly, if you don't have anything they want, that's a double whammy. So I'm just going to, like, this is how we've done outreach successfully, is that video right there. And by the way, there's more than one way to be right about this. So, like, I'm not trying to evangelize you guys and say you have to do it the way I've done it. I'm just telling you what's working for us, right? There's probably lots of different ways to be successful at it. Sebastian, appreciate the, oh, sorry, I skipped. It says Manua. I'm creating some LinkedIn audience, 1.1K on 100 days. Does it make sense to add my ICPs and introduce them and then post content and reach out to the ones that only comment on the hand raisers? Legal niche. That's exactly what I do, just so you know. When starting out, so just so you guys know what they're describing, they're going on LinkedIn and they've started friending. ICP stands for ideal client profile. So like, if you're on LinkedIn to sell to lawyers, you start friending lawyers and you connect lawyers. If you're trying to sell to plumbers, you connect to plumbers. In this case, it's legal niche. So they're friending a bunch of attorneys, and then they introduce some content. Now, when they post that content, who's going to see it? Attorneys. And if people comment or like it or whatever, and then they show up in their DMs, they're not random anymore. And by the way, the dating guys have a term for this. They call it IOIs, indicators of interest. So one of my mentors, Travis Sago, said when he was younger, he was a young man, he would go to these big like dance clubs in downtown San Diego. And he said there'd be like, a few thousand people in a dance club on a Friday night. And he said he would walk around the club once and he would pay attention to every girl who smiled at him. And then he said he would go back around and he would just only talk to the 12 girls who smiled at him. And his batting averages were way higher. Instead of just like talking to some random girls like, I got a boyfriend, fuck off. He's talking to the ones who kind of like indicated they're interested in that material topic. So in your case, the IOI is they liked your shit. They commented on it. They accepted the friend request, right? To me, especially if they're like commenting on your thing and then you show up in their DMs, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be an annoying pitch like everybody else does, but like, I think that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Like that. So that's smart to me, just so you know. The only thing I would just say is make sure you're adding known buyers. Otherwise, you're going to bang your head against the wall going, why won't these people buy? Because they're not buyers. Appreciate the insights, Frankie, Sebastian. Yes, looking to be in the niche long term. I've actually been in it around for 7 months, but only 1 month of doing it right with your content. There you go. Yeah, Cedric Celebrity Authority, Sebastian. You'll make the most amount of money. It won't happen overnight. It takes 6 to 12 months to build a reputation. And as a general rule, it takes about 15 to 20 media pieces. So those can be podcasts, stages, interviews. But once you have them, what I do is I use both paid ads and then like drip content. So like an email list where over, like 20 days. So like what would happen for me is a lawyer would sign up for a webinar on my email list. And right at the start of that webinar, I would tell them about 3 media things I've done. I'd say, you may have heard of me on Attorney at Law Magazine. Said, you may have seen my work with John Morgan, who's the top attorney in the world. You may have seen me at PILMA, at the Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association. That's 3 credibility factors. And eventually I had a guy give me an intro from just a guy I hired on Fiverr. But I hit you with 3 credibility factors before I talk. Then they'd watch the webinar. If they didn't sign up, we would drip an email. And the first thing would be like, here's a little thing I did on stage. Then it'd be like, here's an interview I did. Then it'd be like a couple days later, it'd be like, here's a magazine article I wrote about this topic. And every time I'm subconsciously saying expert, 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 because I'm showing them media pieces that represent expert status. And most people don't realize how easy it is to engineer those things. This is how hard it is to get on a podcast. Hey, podcast person, love your show and how you and James were talking about blah, blah, blah. Got a cool show idea to do blank. I'd be happy to share it and promote it for you. What do you think? There you go. Now I'm booked on a podcast, but that makes me an expert because I was interviewed. And then you hit them with 15 to 20 media pieces and you will be a celebrity authority in your niche because they'll have seen you on podcasts and your book and, saw him speak on stage and he knows this other famous guy in the niche. Ben, I don't know if you saw, but I answered one of your questions earlier. You might have to catch the replay on that. Hey, Frankie, where did you'll get 50 to 100 flood job phone calls a month stat come from? Is that trying it first to get a good gauge, or did you know it beforehand? Thanks. So in this particular case, Ben, I had like 6 things going on. So when I actually did the 90-day challenge, just like full transparency. So I got asked like almost 1,000 times, you're me, you're starting over, you want to get to 10K a month as fast as possible. What would you do? And so I'm like, I kept thinking like, I'll start a course or I'll teach people how to do it, or I'll do a training. And then, I was like, I'll just fucking do it and I'll document it. Whenever anybody asks, I'll send them to the documentation. Go, this is what I did. And then when I got into it, there was actually a struggle going, I don't even have enough time to work on this because, I still got agency clients. I got a whole like coaching mentorship mastermind thing. And we run like weekly calls on that. I do real estate stuff. I do some, what I call digital deal making. And this was like number 5 or number 6 on my list. And I kept thinking, man, I'm not even gonna have time to finish this. How stupid am I gonna look when I say to people, here's how to grow an agency. And then I don't even have the time to do it. And then I'm going to look like an idiot because I said I was going to do it and I'm not. So I had those thoughts of fear. And just so you guys know, let me reread the question. So part of it was, I knew for sure, Ben, I did not have any time to do fulfillment. So I was just going to focus on like, I'll get the clients and then I will hire a white label partner. I use my buddy, the Lane Train. His agency is called Quantum Agency. And so when I picked the niche, which was water damage restoration, I actually picked it because I knew nothing about it. I wanted to pick a niche where I literally knew no one. Because like there's some niches, like I worked in plastic surgery for like 10 years. So if I pick plastic surgery, I know their pain points. I know lots about them. I still connected with some of the people in the industry. I'm like, that kind of felt like cheating. So I'm like, let's pick a niche I know nothing about. And actually it was like 2 weeks before somebody had said to me, oh, I do water damage restoration. And I had to go, what's that? I'd never even heard of the fucking niche. So I picked it just because I was like, man, I want a niche that I know nothing about. And I was bouncing between that and solar. I was going to like do one or the other. And I said to Lane, I said, have you worked in restoration before? And he said, yes. And I said, what's a typical average outcome? And he said, they will typically get between 100 and 200 phone calls a month once the SEO kicks in. That's what our stats say. And so I took that 100 to 200 and I just scaled it in half because I'd rather exceed expectations. But had I not known that we could get 50 to 100, if I didn't have that data from my white label partner, I would just focus on like, we would have gotten you, in our case, category 3 residential flood jobs. That would have been my promise. But because I had specific numbers from him, I included that in the promise. I'm surprised you don't know Kai Stone. No, I don't. I've heard the name. People have asked me about it before, but I know a lot of, just so you guys know, as you become like more and more successful up the ladder, you find yourself consuming less and doing more. Like you'll produce more. Like you literally make more money as you produce more things for other people, and the less you consume. And so what you'll find is it's not like you don't know of other people. You just don't even have time. You're too busy making your own shit to be drinking everyone else's Kool-Aid. So I still like reading books and stuff like that, but I don't really consume a lot of other people's stuff. I don't even really have time for it. Where do you direct people with cheap YouTube strategy? Important detail, Sebastian, is I send them from YouTube to YouTube. That's part of it. Part of why I get such cheap clicks is if you try and send somebody from a YouTube ad to somewhere else, your clicks will cost $1 or $2. But if you're sending them from YouTube to another YouTube thing, so I just make our video sales pitch on YouTube. So I'm like, here's an ad, raise your hand. Now here's a video pitch on how to do the thing. That's basically what we're doing. It's a big, important detail that you asked, that keep them on YouTube and your traffic will be way cheaper. Alan, thank you so much for that breakdown about the used car dealer automation niche, Frankie. Totally makes sense. What's your principle regarding pricing automations and pricing services in general? Alan, here's the honest to God truth that nobody will tell you. The first time you price anything, none of us know what to charge for it. So what I'm really after, like in your case, if I'm getting paid to build an automation, is I want to build something once that can be sold again and again and again and again. And so if I get paid anything at all to build it, so if the first client says, I'll give you $99 or $500 or 10 grand, it makes no difference to me. I'm just happy that I'm getting paid to build it because I know that I can rent that fucking tool again and again. And that's what I'm really after. But the honest to God truth is I don't always know. What is a good general guideline is figure out what the problem is costing them in terms of time and value and not solving. And then as a general rule, agency services kind of have a sweet spot. It's not like set in stone, but they're usually like $1,000 to $3,000 a month. And the reason is smaller than that, although you can be smaller than that with automation kind of things because the AI is the deliverable, but smaller than that, and often with services, then you can't afford to hire help once you start actually getting clients. Because if you're selling like in the beginning, I sold SEO for $400 a month because that seemed cool to me. But then when I had 50 clients and I needed to hire people, like those employees wanted $400 a month. I didn't make anything once I started bringing in employees. So my margins were too small because my pricing was too small. You get too high, say I start saying it's $8K a month to do SEO or whatever. Now at that point, they're thinking, I'll just hire somebody in-house, right? Like I'll have my own full-time SEO person. So 1 to 3,000 is usually like you're cheaper than a US employee, but it's still big enough that you can hire people. But having said that, with automations, you're probably going to be in the like $199 to $1,000 a month. And but if you're getting paid to build it first time through, like who cares? Because you're going to resell the same thing again and again. So you're not really being paid $800 a month. You're really being paid the multiplier of the next 20 clients you're going to sell it to. Third time I've heard that mommy makeover story today. You're going to hear it a few more times if you listen to my shit. But promise last question. It doesn't need to be your last question, dude. I don't care. Hey, Frankie, I know you crushed it offering category 3 calls to water damage niche, but I also see guys hitting 100K per month revenue selling foundational software setups, websites, reviews, DBR. As a beginner, should I just copy them and sell the infrastructure, or do I have to tie my offer to a massive specific job outcome? You don't have to do anything, but just so you know, anytime you think, should I just copy somebody, it is going to be hard because it's way easier to be Coke than Pepsi, okay? So I experienced this when I started selling websites in plastic surgery. There was a company, they still exist, I'm pretty sure, called MedNet. MedNet sold really expensive websites, and they were the first ones who sold websites in the niche. And they got really big doing it because in the beginning, they were the only ones doing it. And so they conquered like 80% of the plastic surgery niche in a few years because there was nobody else doing it specific for plastic surgeons. What happens is the second person who comes in and tries to copy them has a new problem called you have to convince them to switch. So like if you think about a stadium that's selling Coca-Cola, when Pepsi comes in, they don't just have to convince the stadium to sell soft drinks. They have to convince them to fire Coke and switch over, and fire someone else and switch over is always a harder sale. So it's always easier to be first at something than it is to be second. So I know like you go, oh, they were able to get to this point doing that. And you think, oh, that's a proven model. I'll copy them. But you will come in as Pepsi and you will have to convince people to switch. And the same thing that was easy for them will be hard for you because you're the second one doing it, which is why I'm not a big fan of selling Me Too offers. But it doesn't have to be a giant job outcome. I actually think the best place to begin, and you can ask AI for this as well. It's like pick a niche and just look for what are like small little unmet needs that nobody else is doing. What are like little problems that nobody else is solving? What are like little pain in the ass things they do? What are they spending their time on? Like those are questions I like to ask. That's where I would start. Start looking for an unmet market need. And chances are it's just going to be something small, not something giant. Like we're not launching rockets into outer space. Really appreciate the advice. Thank you so much. This is my first time here to do these live calls happen weekly. How can I know when the next one? They're every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Can't say that word right now. Only time I don't do them is usually if there's like a travel day or something going on in life. So I didn't do them the last 2 weeks because I had flights, both of those Mondays. One to Los Angeles, one coming back. So, but having said that, like typically I'm here every Monday, 10 a.m. You guys can ask whatever you want to ask. Manua. LinkedIn guy here. The thing it doesn't show the post to all your followers. 80% of the people they show to are new. Saw a guy that said he'd just introduced himself after the accept. I'm adding based on firms who are hitting hiring recently, though. I guess I need to start introducing myself more often instead of just waiting for the content to showcase who's interested because it doesn't show all posts. So for the 50 to 100 flood job calls, sorry. Yeah, I mean, to that thing, there's always things you can do to accelerate that. Having said that, when you post content, that's a normal thing. So, I mean, I don't know, my YouTube channel has what? A little under 12,000 subscribers, and my views are usually at like 1,000 views. So that means like only 1 out of 12 people are seeing it. Having said that, if you're part of what you're doing is part of why I'm big, like I think content is a way better strategy for attracting clients than outreach as a general rule. They work better together. But high ticket sale of every kind is akin to a football field, right? Like, so a football field, if you think about it, I'm talking American football, not the World Cup that's going on. If you start the ball on your own 1 yard line, you can go 99 yards on a play. And if you watch on YouTube, you'll find videos of guys going the whole field in a single play. But it is much more common to go 15 plays, 72 yards, take 8 minutes off the clock, and to just continually move the ball forward. There's an unseen part of high ticket sales that content accomplishes, is that anytime you add a bunch of strangers on LinkedIn, they're at the 1 yard line. They don't know dick fuck all about you, and they ain't all that interested. And when you publish, what happens is they may not buy your shit, but they just moved up 8 yards the first time they saw you. And they may not comment, they may not say anything. And then the next time they go 12 yards, first down. Now you're at the 20. And if you continue to publish, what happens is at scale, you'll be moving the ball forward with a bunch of people, like bringing them into your sales environment. And it's one to many, which is why I'm big on doing it that way, even though it's a little slower out of the gate. But having said that, you can absolutely message those people too and introduce yourself. I don't think that's a bad idea. Although I will say, what is a better thing is to talk about them and what they're doing. You know, saw ABC divorce law handles divorce with property cases in Sacramento, right? That ain't about you. That's about them. As a general rule, you'll make more money if you talk about them than if you talk about you. Like a lot more, not just a little bit more. They will never care about you. So like, hey, I'm Frankie and I know how to do Facebook ads is not as powerful as, hey, Dave, you know, saw you guys are doing big personal injury cases over in Tallahassee. How did you and your partner, Rob, get together? Like, that's a better opener to me. Having said that, like, you know, what the general strategies of what you're describing are very on point. So like, you just got to keep going with that. The hard thing to do, the hardest thing for people to understand is that the ball is moving forward even when it doesn't seem like it. Part of the equation, and too many people think like, I ran 3 plays and I don't have any points. And I'm like, yeah, but you just moved 30 yards up the field. Like, just keep going. And they're like, yeah, but there's no points. I'm like, I know, but you just keep going. The points come. And you'd be amazed at how many times people go, like, take the ball 70 yards up the field and then drop it, fumble it, metaphorically. So for the 50 to 100 flood job calls per month, how did you set expectations to clients since it doesn't actually start until the SEO kicks in which it could take months? Just that. Say, hey, listen, we're going to turn this on and nothing's going to seem like it's happening. And I actually use the football metaphor for that. I say, right now, you just handed me the ball at the 20-yard line. So next month, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you we're at the 35. And you're going to say, I don't have any points yet. I'm going to say, I know, because we're at the 35. And then the following month, I'm going to get you to midfield. And you're going to tell me there's no points on the board. And I'm going to say, I know, but we're now at midfield. And then you're going to tell me there's no points. And just like football, we don't really get points until we're in the top 3. And that's when you'll start kicking some field goals when we're top 3. And when we start getting you some number 1 rankings, that's when you'll start the scoring points. But we only score points at the end of the field. Like, the measure of success today is not, are there calls coming? And the measure of success is, are we further up the field than we were last month? Are you okay with using that as a benchmark for progress? That's how I like present it to them. And I do that through video, by the way. I don't do that on calls because fuck calls. Sorry, let me just see where I'm at. Oh yes, but it's totally okay to tell them it's a delayed gratification thing, because it is. Like, just be real about that. Oh yep, the LinkedIn introduces with no offer. Hey, just putting a face to the name. Saw you guys are growing. Always looking forward to connecting with forward-thinking owners and such. Appreciate the feedback, man. Legit, so great. I guess I put all the financial pressure on this gives more anxiety, but if I cover with another job, it makes this more of a process. Yeah. And by the way, just so you guys know, like, it's what you said on there, I think there are 3 dominant emotional things that you have to deal with growing an online business of any kind. And they are emotional in nature, and we all deal with them. Maybe I could probably add a 4th one. Thing number 1 is you will experience anxiety about money. When you let go of the guaranteed job and the guaranteed paycheck and the knowing a paycheck is coming on Friday, you will be anxious about money. And there's a tendency to think that will go away when I make my millions. You just have a new stress called payroll. So you will always, to some extent, experience an anxiety about money. It's more what you do about that anxiety than whether it exists. Frustration. You will constantly want shit to be faster than it is, and you will feel like, or the technology will feel like it's thwarting you, and you'll feel resistance. Overwhelm. You will constantly feel like, I got too much shit to do and not enough time and blah, 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 and your brain will feel scrambled. And you will have to learn how to deal with that. And then the last one is what I call imposter syndrome. And it's this idea of, who the fuck am I? Why do I deserve clients? Why do I deserve money when there's somebody better than me? By the way, I experienced this in the agency thing where I have friends who built $100 million agencies. So I sometimes go, okay, I've had 1,000 clients over 20 years, but who the fuck am I to talk about growing an agency when I got friends doing 100 million? I don't know dick fuck all. I've never done 100 million. They should be talking about this, not me. That's called imposter syndrome. I'm not worthy. I'm not ready. Someone knows this better than me. And you will have to defeat all 4 of those at different points. And the biggest thing is just not to get hung up in them. Anxiety, like you're sitting around worrying about the future, and money. Frustrated, like it's not going fast enough. Overwhelmed, too much shit to do. I'm scrambled. And who the fuck am I? And those things will come up again and again. There's new levels mean new devils, but the more you master those, the more you can just do the things that matter and move it forward. Thanks, Frankie. Based on your advice on voice agents for contractors, which is spam detection agent, I'm sending this week reaching out to roofing masterminds, course creators, and CRM companies. There you go. To explore partnerships and access buyers already investing in growth. Besides that, is there anything else you'd recommend I focus on this week to maximize my chances of landing clients? So this is kind of an advanced concept. Most beginners ask the question, how do I sell my blank? And it is a useful question to a certain extent because it'll make you refine your sales pitch and all that. The question that I've learned to obsess about, and this question has made me far more money than the other question that most people, is I ask the question, who is buying it? So we're working on some stuff with yachts right now. And I'm building lists and lists and lists of everybody who buys yachts, sells yachts, works on yachts. Like I'm obsessing about who are all, and I have like a spreadsheet full of all the people buying it, trading it, selling it, doing shit with it. And the reason is because I'm obsessed with the question, who's buying it? So to me, the number one thing that I focus on doing every goddamn day in every business we have is building my buyers list. And we actually had a guy in our, we did our LA event. There was one guy who's a real estate guy. His name was Dan. And I said to him, so he did real estate wholesaling for a lot of years. And it's a really good model, but one of the downsides compared to agency services is they start every month over at 0 deals. But I said to him, when you get a deal, so what they do is they get a deal under contract, for those of you guys who've never done it, and you sell the contract, not the house. And you usually mark up your contract, 10 to 30,000 is typical, but sometimes it can be way more than that. So, you get a house at a really big discount, usually because it's got a lot of damage and the owner's sort of desperate to sell it. And then you mark it up 10 or 20,000, 30,000, whatever. You sell the contract usually to a fix and flip, kind of person. They renovate it. They're able to make some money too. You both sort of win. The homeowner gets out of a difficult situation. I asked him this one simple question. I said, Dan, will you illustrate for everybody here, if you have a house under contract, how much different is it selling that house with and without a buyer's list? And he laughed. And he said, I don't even think I could sell a house without a buyer's list if I didn't know. And so in real estate, this is what you do to build a buyer's list. So there are tools like PropStream is one of the ones we use. It's a software. Like you go in there and it just crunches data for you. Like searches all the public records and makes it easy for you to sift and sort it. So here's what we do. We go into PropStream. We look at the neighborhood. We just got a thing. And we go, give me a list of everybody who bought a house cash in this area in the last 90 days and put extra emphasis if they bought at least 2 and paid all cash for them. And then here's the 97 people who bought a house cash. When we go to sell that house, who do you think we contact? Right? If there's a guy who bought 25 homes in that area, you know what he's looking for? 26. So if you guys want to speed your agency along in terms of sales, obsess about who is buying it, who's spending money on the kinds of things I sell, who is spending money on the thing, and make lists of them and work your lists. So to me, it's just a boring ass spreadsheet. I got a list of spreadsheet. We contact the first person, then the second, then the third, and then the fourth. And we just systematically work through it. And it becomes just like a boring fucking pipeline. But that's the number one thing we do to move anything forward is obsess about who's buying it and also obsess about where they're buying it from, like what they're buying and from where. If you do that, what you'll find is there's like a money flow in every industry and it exists with or without you. But when you discover that it's there, it's kind of like a wind and you put your sail in it and you catch it and you're like, ooh, we just caught the money flow that's there. So to me, that's what we focus on. I'm not saying you have to do that, but if you want to get smarter and better at this stuff, what happens is for a lot of beginners, the process of marketing a business is very emotional. It's very like, I don't know if I can make it work. I'm going to try this. Let's throw some spaghetti at the wall. I'm going to try and send some messages. And if it doesn't work, there's usually an emotional reaction of like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And I suck. And maybe my thing's no good. And I thought GHL would be easier and all those kind of things. When you become a pro, you just have a list of buyers and you're just contacting them systematically. And it's like, there's no emotion whatsoever. And you're just trying angles and offers. And like, that's what we do. Like for real, like 90% of my job is like, getting accurate buyers list. Having an issue booking calls. I get the business owner interested, but I can never get them to join the Zoom call. It's frustrating, man, but I'm considering just sending quick Loom videos. Yeah, that's exactly why you send. Our closing rates have gone up since we switched to Loom videos. And I think the biggest reason is because of that, because they don't want to fucking spend an hour talking to you. And also like we've had clients like buy my shit at like 1 a.m. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck were you doing at 1 a.m? And he said, well, I was laying in bed catching up on my email and I couldn't sleep. And so I saw your thing, checked it. It all made sense. So I bought it. And there is no calendar schedule option for I was in 1 a.m. in bed. Can we schedule a call at 1 a.m. while I'm in bed? So that's exactly why you send a Loom video. And when do you say, okay, I've obsessed enough with the ICPs on this niche and still not moving. Maybe the niche research was wrong and I was just selling my service instead of solving a need. I mean, I don't know. I just systematically, like, this is what I say about not having emotions about it. Every niche wants something. Like, you can safely assume 100 times out of 100, they got problems and unmet needs. So it's only a question of, like, to me, it's like when you do the market research bot, it'll give you like 5 or 6 things they're trying to sell. So my first hand raiser is like, do you want thing 1? Then if that doesn't work, I'm like, do you want thing 2? If that don't work, I'm like, do you want thing 3? And if that don't work, do you want thing 4? And if that don't work, do you want thing 5? And they might go, ding, 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 I want thing 5. Same thing with the problems. Like, hey, if we could solve problem number 1, would you be interested? If we could solve problem number 2, would you be interested? Solve problem number 3. So that's why I say the more you do this, the less emotional you'll be about it. In the beginning, it's all emotion. It's like, I wonder if I can make 10K and I'm just trying to quit my job and I'd love to be able to make this work. And it's all like emotions. When you become a pro, it's just like, it's just data. It's just feedback. It's just trying shit. But you're systematic about it. Just like a scientist would change one variable and then change it the second one and then change the third. You're just like systematically working through it. Like, and to me, the 2 biggest places that it falls apart for like 98% of people, you don't have buyers, it's your offer. You don't have buyers, it's your offer. That's like 90% of the equation when you're starting. You don't have buyers, it's the offer. And if you've done the research and you're sure you've got buyers, then to me, it can only be the offer. And whenever I'm not sure about the offer, I always go back to the market research, always. And this is like, market research isn't something you do once. It's like periodically you revisit it and you go, who are these people? What are they trying to do? Because markets shift over time. And you just go back to it again and again. What problems are you trying to solve? But I don't know. I think it takes a certain level of obsession to win at this in general. All these gurus and mentors say that booking a call is the best way to go. But if I was a buyer, I'd rather get a Loom video too. Why would I want to take an hour of my day on a sales call? Yeah. That is a confirmed fact. Like what you just said. Like, they don't want calls. In fact, it's funny. Like, I didn't know this when I first switched from selling with calls to no calls. My mentor, Travis Sago, like taught me the gist of it. And he had sold his stuff through Google Docs, and I kind of modified it slightly to fit agency services and to be sold through video and to be more visual. But he taught me kind of the basics of it. I remember thinking, like most people do, that like, oh, our closing rates will go down and it'll be harder. And I don't know if we'll be able to close people. Like, a lot of people think those kind of things. And what I found was the opposite. Our closing rates went up. It was easier to get people. And when I started talking to clients, they said some really funny shit that I was not prepared for. One of the things they said was, I didn't want to talk to your ass either. like, dude, I got shit to do. Like, I'm like, in my case, they were like, I'm running a fucking law firm. Like, you think I want to jump on calls and talk about buying shit? Like, dude, like, I got cases and clients and like court and filing fees and insurance adjusters. Like, just send me the info, and when I got time, I'll get to it. And they told me they preferred to be sold that way. In fact, I was actually just having a conversation with a client like 2-3 days ago, and they said to me, we have one other vendor like you. That's how they describe their agency partners, vendors. So we have one other vendor like you that sends videos, and thank fuck for you guys. Because we hate having to jump on a call just to find out how shit's going. So that's been my experience. It's like, people with money especially guard their time. Like, for me personally, like, I get pitched a lot on this YouTube channel, and the number of people who ask for, let's jump on a quick call that I know is a sales call, like a quick call, literally exceeds the amount of time I have in a week. So if I said yes to everybody who sent one, I still wouldn't be able to manage them all, and it would have to like kick over from week to week to week. So it's like you have to guard your time. You have to say no to a lot of shit, right? Like there's no other way to deal with it. Great, man. That's good. I do make crazy market research mine and scrape Reddits, plus also worked on the field. So that way I have the potential needs plus the actual language on different levels. That's why I like your content. You focus more on the market rather than being a donkey doing hustle outreach or spend money on ads. Yeah. And by the way, like, to that point, like there's nothing that hurts more than being a hustle bro because your offer is broken and you don't know what the market wants. Having said that, just so you know, is when it is off, it's actually usually not off by a lot. This is a thing. I call it the 10-degree shift. So if I go to a roofer, for example, and I say, I can get you more jobs, more than likely that will probably not land. But if I say I can get you more full install jobs, that has a better chance of working. If I say I can get you full install jobs in the rich neighborhoods, that's a different level of promise. And so a lot of times when you're promising more jobs and it doesn't work, there's a tendency to think like, oh, I got to jump niches and, I should try GHL instead and think I got to abandon ship. But you're usually not off by that much. You're off by like a little bit. And so like, that's why I go back to the market research to like really get those nuances. Like, I don't just want jobs. I want full install jobs. And I don't just want full install jobs. I want them in Beverly Hills because I make way more money in Beverly Hills. Those motherfuckers got money for days and they pay all cash. Every time I get a job in Beverly Hills, they crush it. Like that's what they want. So that's why I say, like, I always, when you're off, I go back to the market research bot because you're usually not off by a lot. Like a lot of times people don't realize just those little details between I'll get you jobs, I'll get you full install jobs, I'll get you full install jobs in the rich neighborhood. Difference between those is 10 degrees, but man, that 10 degrees makes it land a lot harder. On this Loom video, though, don't want to make it 40 to 60 seconds and send it over text. Also, do you discuss price in the call? Also, I've never seen this done before. Also, do you ever use GHL? Yes, I'll answer the second question first. Yes, we use GHL. I don't know if you guys have seen, but I've done some stuff with the founder, Sean Clark, has been on our show a few times. As far as sending it over, okay, so price is a thing that I disagree with most. So conventional wisdom says never, ever, 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 ever tell them the price until the very end. And what we do is I have figured out that if you contextualize price with value, price is irrelevant. The only reason somebody ever spends money on anything is because what they get in return value is greater than whatever the outgoing expense is. So for example, if I say to you, I have a car, it is for sale, it is $5,000. Are you going to give me $5,000? And the answer is like, doesn't it depend on what kind of car you get? Right? So if I say an agency service is $1,000 a month, doesn't it kind of depend on what they're going to do for that $1,000 a month? Right? If they're going to make me $100K a month running Google ads, like that's a steal. Right? So what I realized with the car is like, there's a huge difference between I got a 1972 used Hyundai, runs like a piece of shit. It's rusted. It's fucked. It's on its last legs. Give me $5,000 is not nearly as valuable as, hey, my wife just cheated on me. I bought her a brand new Ferrari and it has $5,000 in transfer fees. I want to sell it and see the look on her face when she finds out that I know. And first person who gets down here is getting the title for this car. And all you got to do is pay the transfer fees. And you can have a brand new Ferrari for $5,000, barely driven. That's a fucking steal. So the detail that matters is not price. It's what you get for it. And so like I always say, like if you could just add this phrase anytime you present price, and for that you will get. It's $2,000 a month. And for that you will get. So in my case, hey, it's $2,800 a month. And for that, you will get 50 to 100 category 3 flood job calls. And it'll take about 6 months to work. But at the end of those 6 months, you're going to get this outcome predictably each month. And they ain't buying the $2,800 a month. Just, they're buying the 50 to 100 category 3 flood jobs calls. Fulfillment always gets me. Well, if you elaborate on what that is. Yeah, at some point in scale, by the way, all your problems are fulfillment and not sales. Most people just get stuck out of the sales problem. So I tend to spend 80 to 90% of the time talking about it. But at scale, all your problems are fulfillment. I'll give you kind of the recipe for fulfillment done right. You do only one thing, right? Like when McDonald's scaled, they only did burgers. When Amazon first scaled, not what they are now, they only sold books, right? One thing over and over. So for us, Facebook ads for personal injury lawyers, that's all we did. Then it's the same thing every time. Then you can reuse stuff from client to client. Then you document everything you do, including, in our case, how we set up the ads, launched them, checked them, maintained them, created images, and also how we communicate to clients, how we update them, what we send them, when we send it, at what intervals. All of that gets step-by-step documentation. I compare it to a restaurant that has a written down recipe for everything they make. So you make like a recipe for everything. And then you train people on your recipes. And so you have to have a filtering process to get good employees. You train them on your recipes. And then they're just walking in and following your recipes. And they're making burgers the same way that you make burgers. If you do that at scale, what will happen is it's really just, Sam Carlson would say, build it once, sell it 1,000 times. What are some of the habits your unsuccessful students have that you think is keeping them from growing their agency? I think the number one thing with my audience specifically, that like keeps people stuck, and this is, by the way, this is a smart people problem, not a dumb person problem, is they want to figure everything out first before they'll step onto the field of battle. And the problem is, you can't figure everything out on the sidelines. And so when you get into the field of battle, the game will evolve. For example, like let's just, compare it to a football game, but like, let's say you try and run the ball to the left side, which is normally your go-to strength. And 10 different times you do that, the other team's waiting for it and they stuff you. Well, who cares if you got a plan to run the ball to the left side? It's time to fucking pivot and come up with a new game plan. And so I think a lot of people do a lot of things to avoid conversations with potential clients. Getting their website ready, researching this, got to get all my tool stack in order before I'll go just talk to clients. And I think step one is just go talk to clients. It can be done over text or through video. Like you don't have to like jump on calls to talk to clients, but you have to like, if you want to move the needle forward, you got to make offers to clients. And then the other thing that I kind of see a lot of with people unsuccessful is consuming information and feeling like it's progress. So I have a simple rule. If I consume something, like say I'm watching this right now, my rule is I have to do one thing with it. Just like I don't give myself a massive to-do list, but I have to take one idea and go make it in the real world. And so to me, the limiting factor isn't how much shit I can watch or consume. In the beginning, I used to watch like videos on how to do SEO and all that. And I'd watch 50 videos and I would like the end of the day, I was like, ooh, that was a long day, but I didn't actually do anything. You make money when you produce things for other people. So almost always, if people are broke and struggling, they're simply just not producing enough things for other people. And then I guess the third thing is I think too many people are sold false expectations of this is easier, faster, anybody can do it. And there's a reason why, like a lot of gurus make a lot of money, sell my course. It's so easy to make a buck. If it was so easy, anyone could do it. Nobody would have a job. Like, why would anyone have a job if it's so easy? Anyone can do it. It's hard. It's not, but it's also a climbable mountain. Just so you know, it's like it's hard, but it's not that fucking hard. Kind of like getting in shape. You got to show up and you got to be disciplined. You got to eat right. But it's like it's a climbable fucking mountain. So I get messages all the time that are like, I sent 50 messages this week and nobody bought anything. What am I doing wrong? And to me, it's the dating equivalent of like, I downloaded the app, I swiped for an hour, nobody had sex with me, and I don't have a wife. What am I doing wrong? And the only thing you're doing wrong is your expectation that it was supposed to be 5 minutes, that you would just swipe and like girls would like throw themselves at you. Like it's a process. You started the process. Now just keep fucking going, right? So I see this all the time where people, it's almost like the dating equivalent. Like imagine a guy who says like, I haven't had any sex. And you go, well, did you download the app? And they go, yeah. And did you swipe? Yeah. And did you get any matches? I got 20 matches. Did you talk to any of them? Yeah, I talked to 12 of them. Did you go on any dates? I went on 3 dates. How did those go? One of them like was a weirdo. 2 of them were good though. And what about the 2 dates? Did you have any second dates? Yeah, this one I've gone on 3 dates with. Great. Keep dating her, right? Like that's all you got to do is like keep doing the shit that's working. But your expectation was I was supposed to be laid by now. So I hear this all the time from beginners. Drives me fucking crazy when they're like, I sent 50 messages. I'm not a millionaire. Like, are any of them talking to you? Yeah. Well, then start continuing that conversation, just like you would invite her to a second date. Like invite them to send, can I send you more info? Right? Like keep pushing it forward. Like it's working. Just stop fucking it up. So I see this all the time where people like one of the number one reasons people are unsuccessful is they just think it's supposed to be easier and faster. And so they're like, I sent 50 DMs. I'm not a millionaire. What the fuck am I doing wrong? And it's like, you're not doing anything wrong. Just keep going. Is outsourcing the way to go? It depends what you want. If you want to do it big at scale and not have a machine that runs without you, I mean, I couldn't imagine not outsourcing. But plenty of people want to just get to 10K. And if you're only trying to get to 10K, like outsourcing will probably take away half your profit margin, and then you really have a 5K business. But I would rather have, $100,000 a month thing and get 50K than have a $10,000 a month thing and get 100% of it. So it depends what you're trying to build. How deep is too deep of a sub niche? Almost always, I'll tell you, people are not deep enough. Like 99 times out of 100, they're not deep enough. Like you just focus on one type of client, customer, patient, job, whatever. 100% agree on the avoidance part. Myself, I created content and content systems thinking distribution would solve inbound so I could avoid outbound, even going viral in the niche didn't bring leads. Content's a tricky one because content is a cumulative asset. And it also, it like, if you think about the football field, it creates driving the ball forward. So if you do content and you do it for 3 months, nothing will happen. And almost everybody quits in 3 months. They go, I've been posting for 90 days. No one bought my shit. What you can't measure is that like a bunch of people started on the 1 yard line and are now at the 40 and going, hey, this is kind of interesting. You can't really measure that easily, but you don't get any points at the 40 yard line. So everybody thinks it's not working and turns it off. If you keep going for like 3 to 6 months, you'll start to get a trickle. You'll get like an inbound inquiry or two. And then people will go, it's kind of working, but it's not really worth it. You're making all these videos, doing all this work, doing all this posting. If you stick with it for another 6 months, you'll go to a year. You'll start to have obvious inbound. And you go, oh, this is actually working and it's worth it. And if you stick with it for like 2 to 3 years, it'll compound so much that you'll have what I call endless inbound. And you'll like literally have opportunities all day long. But very few people think of content in 3-year terms. And so like, because what happens is it's a twofold effect. So I have 1,000 videos or something like that. That gives people 1,000 ways of finding me. And each video moves the ball forward, right? So like you get, 1,000 ways of them discovering you and 1,000 ways to push the ball forward. So like both of those create like a lot of inbound. For me, it's actually almost overwhelming. I get like hundreds of messages every day from like, can you help me with this? Can you look at this? What about my Loom video, my outreach? I don't know what's working. Can you help me? Do you do this? Do you not do that? Like I get a lot of that. I'm not complaining. It's a good problem to have. But that's the compound effect of staying with content long enough. But content's a tricky thing because most people like 90 days, it's not working, don't know what I'm doing wrong. And you're actually like, it is working. You just are thinking in the wrong timelines. I think we're going to call this the last one because I'm going to go eat some food. I haven't eaten anything yet, guys, today. Didn't really feel like breakfast, but I'm definitely feeling like lunch. But to an extent, don't you have to learn something like GHL before you sell to people? If I outreach first and get people who are interested and don't know how to actually do it. How do I say this? sometimes you have to know how you would help somebody, but it doesn't mean that you personally have to help people. So for example, I had somebody, I have a local meetup group, and somebody said, hey, I need some help with Zapier integrations. Does anybody here know how to get that done? I do not do Zapier integrations. I do not want to do Zapier integrations, but I have like 3 or 4 people that historically have helped me with that. And I said, if you want, I can connect you. If I was trying to sell that as a service, I would say, me, I can do it. Tell me what you're trying to do. Now, there's a tendency to think that you got to master the skills before you're ready to sell it. And this is one of the hardest parts mentally of entrepreneurship, because in most of the real world, the way society is structured, you can't do shit until somebody else tells you you're ready. So like I wanted to, in a former life, by the way, I went to school to be an engineer. So 4 years of school. I didn't finish because I was a loser. I dropped out after 3 years. But had I gone, it was 4 years. And I did have a few engineering jobs because I lied on my resume and said I had all 4 years, even though I didn't. And if I wanted to become a professional engineer, I would have had to like work under a professional engineer for 4 years. So it takes 8 years in total before I can call myself a professional engineer. I'm ready. And a lot of society is set up like that. You want to be a lawyer, it's 7 years, doctor, 7 years. That's just the schooling part. I don't know how long before you can get your formal license. Entrepreneurship, there is one single fucking qualification. This is it. Can you help that person? If so, you're qualified. You don't need any other qualifications to do it. If you know how to help somebody do some shit they're trying to do, you're fucking qualified. And by the way, being qualified does not mean limited to your personal skill set, meaning I personally know how to do this, but also by proxy, the network. So even if you're just part of a community where I can ask that. So for me, I could go into a Zapier community and say, hey, this person's trying to do blank. How would you do that? I can get that solution. So I can like ethically and honestly say, yes, I know how to do that, even though today I don't know how to do it. So one of the hardest things to do mentally, and this is only between the ears, is to make yourself ready now. I call it appointing yourself the mayor of Cool Town. Is you get your big old dick out, you stick your flag out, you stick it down, and you go, I'm the sheriff around here. And as Eminem would say, I am because I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am, right? So I remember for me, appointing myself the mayor of Cool Town, when I started my second agency, I remember writing on LinkedIn, my profile, attorney marketing expert. And I laughed when I wrote that shit because I didn't know any attorneys. I never had a friend who went to law school. I never hired an attorney. Like literally the total number of attorneys that Frankie Finn knew was zero. And I'm writing on my profile that I'm an attorney marketing expert, sticking my flag in the mayor of Cool Town. I remember it took me an hour to click submit because I was like, you can't say that. You're not really an attorney, Mark. And I like double pumped a few times. And when I finally clicked submit on the old Mousearooski, it timed out and said you had to do it again. And it took me 5 minutes the second time. It didn't time out the second time. But eventually it said attorney marketing expert. And then I'm like, I own that shit. That's right. I help attorneys. I'm an expert in this space. You goddamn right I am. I am. Well, if I wasn't, why would my LinkedIn profile say attorney marketing expert? So one of the hardest things to do about all of this is to decide you're ready now, do it now, and be willing to help people because it's the right thing to do. And the flip side of that is if you feel like you're not qualified or you're not ready, you'll do a lot of bullshit. Like I see a lot of people in the coaching space. Coaches love certifications. Nobody ever feels ready to coach people. They just need one more certification before they're ready. There's a lot of fucking money made certifying motherfuckers who aren't ready. But I think about it like this, okay? Like, so there's been like 6 or 7 times here where I'd be on the beach and I got my van stuck in the sand. It's a real, one of the times I was on a really remote beach called Magote, like half hour from here. And I'm like in the middle of nowhere. It's Sunday night and I didn't have any food or water for my kids because we, finished it all there and we got stuck. And I went, motherfucker. and there was nobody else there. It was a Sunday night. And then all of a sudden, like 5 minutes go by and I saw one car and I stopped them. It's two old drunk Mexican guys. They're like 70 years old. And they got out and they were so super kind and they helped me. And they were inefficient as fuck. They had this old shitty pickup truck and they had this tow rope that looked like it had seen better days. And imagine they said to me, "Oh, I'm not really qualified. You know, I don't have a tow rope certification, and you know, my tow rope's kind of old. My truck's kind of. Why don't we let somebody else handle it?" I would have been there for fucking days before the next person came with 3 kids and no water and hot ass desert climate. So, if you can help somebody, you should, and make money doing it, and feel good about that. But you're never going to feel fully ready. Just so you know, like you do it because you do it because you do it. So there's a tendency to think, oh, I'm only ready when I learn all the GHL and all the skills and blah, blah, blah. I look at it like like the amount of people you can hire for $15 an hour that can do almost anything in digital marketing that you can find in any community. It's like, you're ready, but you're only ready when you decide here that I'm ready. And by the way, it will feel uncomfortable to go attorney marketing expert or whatever your equivalent is, because you know deep down that you're an imposter in that, you know, you haven't done this as much as you'd want to do it. But the reality is, if you know how to unstick the guy in the beach, just fucking do it. You're qualified. Shout out to Frankie's brain. There you go. Nice stream, man. We'll tune in next Monday. Been obsessed with your content. I'm transcribing your vids with AI Studio and using a custom GTPT. So it's nice to tune into the actual Frankie. There you go. Appreciate it. Thanks, Frankie. Killer stream as always. Do you think there's ever a saturation problem when picking a niche if a bunch of your viewers, students have chosen that niche as well and have gotten into their shoe stores already? Only if you're selling the same thing in the same way. But there's always unmet needs in every market, just, you know, because one problem solve creates another. In an agency, you start, you don't have any clients. Solve that problem, you'll have fulfillment problems. Solve your fulfillment problem, you'll have hiring problems. Solve your hiring problem, you'll have management problems. Solve your management problem, you'll have like a corporate-y kind of scale problems. So one problem always creates another one. So like you can safely assume there's unmet needs in every niche, because there is. But if you sell the same thing in the same way, what I call a Me Too offer, then it feels really saturated because you're the 1,000th person selling the same thing in the same way to the same person. But find the unmet need and it'll always be different. Like I told you, there's too many taco restaurants where I live, but there's no Indian restaurants. If you're going to sell food, Indian restaurants is an unmet need. Taco restaurant, there's 1,000 people selling the same thing in the same way. It's really up to you. You can sell tacos and make it hard, or you can sell Indian food and be like, hey, we've been looking for somebody like you. So anyways, I'm going to bounce here, guys. I appreciate you. Happy Monday. May the Triforce be with you. Thank you guys again for an awesome Monday session. Appreciate you guys listening to me just ramble on. Old man yells at cloud for almost 3 hours. And talk soon. Much love to you guys. May the Triforce be with you.